Welcome, 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 friends and fiends, to another Red Death Mass stream. Today, we are reading more CREEPCAST fan stories, as we always do. First on the menu, we have from Michael-Wakefield, 23 Company Street, parts 1 through 3. Interesting title. Don't know anything about the story. He wanted some feedback, so we're here to give him some. What up, rude dude? I am well. How are you doing? Next, we have that I put in the title. I am an urban explorer for the U.S. government, part 1, from Logan of Ireland. Good name. Interesting story, and it has this cool picture. A few of the stories today have pictures with them. And then we have Knock Knock Knock, which has several. Probably this is the creepiest photo. Looks like I don't know, a fire, or something. Inside of like a cabin, psychological horror. Should be pretty good. I'm most excited for the Urban Explorer, just based off the titles. The Urban Explorer for the U.S. government, that sounds interesting. And then Knock Knock Knock, because I'm curious if each of these pictures like associate with part of the story. Just seems kind of fun. I like having a physical media attached to the story. I know that on Tales from the Creeps, they don't let people post art or pictures anymore, or maybe they do somewhat. I don't know, but I know for sure they don't let people do artwork anymore. But I do think it is cool if you can have a physical element to your story to do it. I just think they should let people post artwork too, kind of silly, but and then yeah, that's and then if there's time, we're gonna do There's Something Under the Boardwalk part 3. So that's what's on the menu today. I am really just getting excited for. I just watched Wendigoon's video on the back rooms, and I'm really just getting so stoked. I know I talked about it on my last stream for the Backrooms movie, but I'm getting more excited as time goes on. And I hope that people, whether from Tales from the Creeps or the CREEPCAST subreddit and all that stuff, and on Discord, I hope people are meeting up to go see the movie together. I think that would be really cool. I think people on Discord, should do. I mean, watch parties once it comes out, on streaming too. But I think people should meet up and do viewings, viewing parties with like it'd be sick if you found all the people in your city that were fans of Creepcast in the back rooms, and you guys were able to fill a theater of all Creepcast fans. That would be really cool. So anyways, it's just something that I've been thinking about. There was something else. Oh, it was the Mark Duplass Kane Pixels, what he said.
This new information for Kane Pixel's Backrooms film is so promising. I think this might be one of A24's best films of this year. So Mark Duplass, the main actor for this upcoming Backrooms film, had an interview with the Collider, and this is what he had to say about the film and Kane Pixels.
Like, this guy is so in charge and knows every detail down to the last thing, and he was so patient and good with the actors and with us. It was so impressive to watch him command that set in a lovely and humble.
So first off, before I show any more, Kane definitely knows what he's doing. And being one of the youngest filmmakers and directors to do it at 20 years old, being able to listen to all these S-tier actors and understand where they're coming from and be patient with them tells you that he took time and effort to get the most out of this set. And if I was Kane, knowing that the Backrooms is what really got me off the ground, I would definitely put as much time and effort into this to make sure it is the greatest thing I've ever made.
That, the nature of Kane's brain, as I said, is just this really beautiful space. And so what I needed to do is sort of respect and hold like the deep mythology going on in his brain, and not clutter that with too many words or too many questions, and keep the lane of communication very, very simple with him.
Another thing is how ingrained Kane's brain is when it comes to the backroom. Mark stating that Kane's brain is like a museum of mythology that runs really deep. Not cluttering it with questions that should be asked as an actor was probably the best thing he could have done. Mark and the rest of the actors didn't want to mess up any of what Kane had already had in mind, so he could make the film to its fullest extent. So if one thing is for certain, this is going...
Yeah, anyways, one thing that I was worried about, I guess, about the Backrooms is, you know, A24 is really good about letting directors and people artistically do what they want, but I was worried that some Hollywood elements, some people were going to get in there and, you know, they were going to be like, this kid's 20 years old, you know, he doesn't know what he's doing, or what, and you know what I mean? Hollywood ruins so much stuff. So you have to, part of me, the cynical part of me was just worried that like, that whether it was agents or producers or people, somebody was going to get in there and, you know, fuck with things and be like, well, we need, you know, he's so young, we need, you know, somebody else needs to be there to blah, 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 do X, Y, and Z, you know, to make sure that this project stays on the rails, or, you know, just something like that. And I'm really, from what Mark Duplass said, and, you know, he's obviously got some experience making, you know, horror and stuff like that, is that, you know, he was like in command of the set, and that just really made me excited, you know, once I heard that that bit in particular. And yeah, him working with the actors and stuff is really cool, but it just made me so excited to think that like no one was underestimating him or thinking that like you know, they needed to tell him how it was gonna work in Hollywood, or this is how we actually get movies made, or, you know, you need to do this in the movie because otherwise it's not going to do well overseas, or X, Y, or Z, or this or that, you know. And so that just made me really happy. I was happy that to hear Mark Duplass being like, you know, he was so humbly and like analytically like in charge, you know, and that just made me stoked. I was really happy when I saw that clip. But anyways, enough about that. We will get into 23 Company Street by Michael-Wakefield. So I'm kind of curious, 23 Company Street. I feel like that's switched. yeah, I don't know, 23 Company Street, like 23rd Street Company. I don't know. And I'm wondering if that's gonna tie into the story. But I've never heard of like a street called Company Street. I don't think so. Hmm. Hi, Danny. How are you? Um. Oh, and then real quick, I need to send out the links to. Here, we can watch Mother Horse Eyes for a second while I want to send out the links of the stream to the authors. And I need to do that. Sometimes I do it before, but also sometimes I forget. So here, let's enjoy Mother Horse Eyes for a
and
second.
start dancing,
while
and
I do
everything
that.
seems fine. It's an old 80s neon themed club. However, while they're dancing, she notices something. I look across the dance floor and I see a tall man in a black suit with black hair standing perfectly still among the dancing crowd. He is watching me with dark eyes. This guy seemingly has to be a part of the narrative, so she asks Corey who that is, and once again, Corey's program doesn't know how to react to him. Corey turns to her and says, "Cute skirt," a line he said earlier. Eventually, the man in the dark suit starts making its way towards our user. She remarks that the man's face is uncharacteristic.
Called Tuckahoe. So who knows? Yeah, I guess their streets can be named anything, right? It's like a person. It's like they can be named anything. I guess the reason I was like, it's either 23rd Street. It's never like, I don't know. A street is never like fifth Waterloo. You know what I mean? Like it's never numbers and words, is it? It's either numbers or avenues or George Washington Boulevard, you know what I mean? And so I don't know, it's just the title of it led me to believe that, like, I don't know, maybe something weird is going on with the 23, because it's not 23rd, it's 23 Company Street. Interesting. So here we go. Michael-Wakefield. Or story. Now Logan of Ireland. Somebody else put like great name, and I have to agree. Logan of Ireland is. We got a lot of great Irish writers. I don't know why like CREEPCAST or it seems to be. I mean, I imagine it's big in a lot of other countries, but it seems like as far as authors go, like as far as fan authors go, Ireland has like a lot. Maybe I mean Ireland has a lot of I don't know, like yeah, I know James Joyce, they've got like every country has a lot of great authors, but maybe there's a sort of a renaissance going on within Ireland right now, a horror renaissance that we don't know about. Did it send? Okay, geez, it was just taking its sweet time. All right, here we go. All right, let's get into the story. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry, I wanted to make sure that nobody... Sometimes people message me back like right away. Just wanted to double check. All right. So now here. They're mystical yet haunted people. Yes, absolutely. Are you from NYC, Danny? I mean, you don't have to mention that. But or have you lived in New York? Cuz that's awesome. It seems like we have a few East Coast people in my chat. And yeah, it's just cool. I've never been to New York. I'm always curious. We're gonna have to talk about Law and Order sometime because that's 80% of my New York knowledge comes from Law and Order and shows like it. So from the BX all day. I'm a big fan of Desus and Miro, so shout out to the Bronx. All my other New York knowledge comes from them. But I've always wanted to ask somebody from New York this. What is Fishkill? I've heard of... Is Fishkill like a suburb of New York? That's something that has always... I mean, it's so confusing because it's like you have the Bronx, you have Brooklyn, you have Manhattan, you have Long Island. I'm sure I'm probably missing some. But then people randomly throw out you have Queens, right? But then there's like people like Riverdale, and stuff like that, or they talk about these other neighborhoods, and I'm like, are those neighborhoods within a specific borough? Like Hell's Kitchen, you know what I mean? Are they... is it a town? Like, is it broken up into towns within the borough? And then all the boroughs make up the city of New York? Or is it, I don't know, weirder than that? It's just, it's so fascinating to me to have so many people living so close together that you can take a train for 5 minutes and be in a different town, I guess. Would you almost call it? Like, yeah, I don't know. They're not really towns. They're all in the city. It's all the city, but Westchester, which is the BX, but it's moving more towards upstate. Okay, I see. Westchester. Okay. See, and I've only ever heard of Westchester, Pennsylvania. So anyways, New York fascinates me. I want to go there, want to visit, but I've always really like just watching Law and Order and those shows growing up. I've always like wanted to have a handle on like, oh, this is what the Bronx is like. This is what Brooklyn is like. But then the more I learned, the more I feel like the more I learn, the less I know. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations. But anyways, let's get to the story. All right, 23 Company Street, parts 1 through 3. 1. The roads in West Virginia are long and windy, snaking around its ancient hills, passing through the deep groves as if nature wanted to keep its mysteries hidden from the unwanted eye. especially if you drive east from Hanover, like Deputy Harlan Harris was doing that cold February day. It was almost an hour of continuous swerves and turns when he could see the valley opening ahead, the mix of red oaks and walnut trees giving way to see the small town that stretched along the side of the mountain. He could see the town hall, the only truly noticeable building from that scenery, a large stone mausoleum from the Civil War times. He also noticed the new jailhouse right next to it, which also conveniently housed the sheriff's department. Deputy Harris couldn't help but think about the efficiency of it all as the department issued F-250. Oh, okay, the truck. Okay, the car he's driving. Okay. Deputy Harris couldn't help but think about the efficiency of it all as the department issued F-250 was slowly descending the steep slope into the main roundabout. He glanced at the sign on the side of the road. "You are now entering Pineville. Welcome to God's country." After parking in one of the designated spots behind the jailhouse, he took a spirit out of the ruffled pack in his jacket. Leaning back against the hood of the car, he took the cold in while taking long drags out of the smoke. Okay. That's fine. It's painting a good picture. I like this opening so far. Just some of the phrasing I think what is tripping me up. But yeah, he's smoking a cig. He just got back to the sheriff's office, the jailhouse. He's in West Virginia. There's a small mountain town, alongside the front of the mountain or whatever. And this is definitely giving small town horror vibes thus far. It's cold, it's February. I think West Virginia is pretty, I don't think it's snowing, I guess is my point. It's cold, it's maybe rainy, but it's not like, it's not snowing, it's not freezing. Or maybe it is, maybe it could be, I don't know. I don't think West Virginia gets a lot of snow though. It's kind of like Georgia. And there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, I liked this idea of all the roads being windy. There's something about a windy country road, or with dips and driving through a hilly landscape. It is kind of ominous, right? Because when you have a flat desert road, or there's just something about it. West Virginia, they'll have some trees and stuff too, but I'm thinking where I'm at in Colorado, it's there's not as many hills. You can get up into the mountains pretty quickly, and then of course you get a lot of hills, but it's for the most part things are open, roads are pretty straight, you're driving on a lot of interstates and highways and stuff. But when a town, when you've got an area that's got a lot of slopes and turns and and windy roads, it's like you never know what's going to be over that next hill, right? You never know what's going to be around the next bend. So I kind of like that already as just a setting. It kind of makes me feel like anything could happen. So I like that. And I mean, it hints to that in the first line, where it's like nature wanted to keep its mysteries hinted or hidden from the unwanted eye. So I like that our narrator's kind of like keying in on that. But I also just think that write what you know too. So if I assume this person has been to West Virginia, because it sounds like they know it well. I went to, I think, like Virginia Beach, so it was the coast, but I've only been there as a kid and I barely remember it. But yeah, so anyways, cool. I like the setting. He's out there, he's smoking a cigarette. Yeah, he took in the cold while taking long drags out of the smoke, meaning out of the cigarette, He couldn't help but notice that the woods were trying to reclaim what little was left of the town. He looked at the few commercial buildings that were lining up Main Street. Flanked by the small, well-distanced houses. Even though a born and bred West Virginian himself, Harris barely ever left Morgantown. And the sceneries there, while also full of the natural beauty of the land, were much more urban, for lack of a better word. He left the comfort of the city 6 hours before, and he was already missing it. But this was a special occasion. The case that got handed to him by Marshal Lambert was what he needed for that promotion he's been working so hard in the last year. And Lambert hinted that if he did a good job, he can be sure to receive it. He barely glanced, so he's kind of more from the city, Morgantown, but now he's in Pineville. Okay, got it. He barely glanced through the file the previous day before going home to pack. It seemed just another messy murder. He's a sheriff. Yeah, he's a sheriff's deputy. Okay. Arlen Harris. Oh. It seemed just another messy murder, but he couldn't shake off the feeling that he was sent here to handle the dirty work in a hopeless case. He also couldn't stop thinking that it will most likely have an unsatisfying solution. Even while enjoying the dinner that his wife prepared for him, it seemed quite simple from what he understood. Some guy decided it was a good idea to take his vacation alone in a cabin halfway up the mountain, and was unlucky enough to be trapped there during the blizzard that washed over the entire area. Okay, so we are getting some snowy. He was trapped in a blizzard, this guy was, when he was murdered. Blizzard that washed over the entire area. Someone broke into the house a few nights later, killed the poor sap, vandalized half the house while burning the other half down. Pineville SD kept the details to a minimum and ended their transmission by throwing their hands up and asking for a specialist to be sent from the city. If this case was so difficult, the department would have sent a detective, a sheriff, even Lambert himself might have taken a crack at it. But most likely, it was a drug-related incident. Those usually end up leading nowhere. It was common knowledge that the more you drove into the heart of the Virginia mountains, the more crackheads and heroin junkies you found. Poverty has a tendency to draw the worst out of people, and so does being forgotten about. And this was deep Appalachia. So we've got Appalachia, junkies, a case that's probably going to lead to nowhere, but is his kind of ticket to the promotion that he wants. And he doesn't even seem like that interested in the case. He barely looked at the file, it said, before, so he's kind of just doing this to check off the list, and if he can figure it out, if he can bring any sort of a conclusion, or do more than at least the local authorities have done, then it'll probably be his ticket to a better job, right? But yeah, that's when I went back up to look to see if he was a sheriff or what he was, because I was wondering, I was like, if this is a murder, why is just a sheriff or a marshal sent him out here? But I'm like, it seems like, this would be a detective's thing or whatever, but it sounds like the local authorities have already investigated and they're like, send somebody else, and so he's just the someone else. It fell into his lap, After we got a crushing the butt, we got a ripping butt from fucking what's it called? I pretended to be a missing girl. After crushing the butt of the cigarette under his boot, he made his way through the side door of the department. The old lady behind the counter didn't look up from the paperwork in front of her when Harris stopped in front of the reception. Good afternoon. Excuse me. Hi, how may I help you? Her voice was monotone, almost robotic, with a subtle rasp. I'm supposed to meet Sheriff Thompson. Is he around? Round the corner and to the left, darling. Can't miss it. Thank you. Harris made his way through the corridor, looking around. The department was not run down by any means, but it had a certain impressive view. The social responsibility infographics hanging on the wall were just the tiniest bit soulless, matching the faces on the wanted posters. Yep, junkies, he thought to himself while trying to count the missing teeth from the photos. Next to them, a panel titled Missing Persons, with much too many pictures hanged on. He stopped in front of the glass door with a bronze plaque reading Sheriff Waylon Thompson and knocked firmly. Come on in. A rough but not unfriendly voice boomed from the other side, and he stepped in. Good afternoon, Sheriff Thompson. Deputy Harlan Harris. I was sent to speak with you. Howdy, boy. Pleasure to meet you. And please, call me Waylon. Everyone around here calls me Sheriff Waylon. The sheriff stood up, smiling at him. The deep ridges set in the thick skin around the eyes. The big yellow handlebar mustache, the beer belly, and the Texan tie completed the most stereotypical picture of a cowboy you could imagine. Harris couldn't help but smile back as he shook the sheriff's bulky hand. I was told that I might be of help with the McConnell case. Around here, we normally take our time. We sit down and talk about the weather and such, but you don't strike me, but you do strike me as a man of action, Harlan. So sure, let's dive right into it. What'd you like to know? The sheriff sat down in his massive white leather chair while gesturing to Harris to take a seat on the armchair next to his desk. Everything, I guess. Guys in Morgantown were tight-lipped about this whole thing. All I know is that foul play is definitely on the table and that the house got pretty wrecked. He looked into the sheriff's green-gray eyes. His gaze reminded Harris of his old man. Foul play is a bit of an understatement if you ask me. Never seen anything like it in my 40 years on the job. Not exactly for the faint of heart. The sheriff looked at Harris inquisitively, trying to see if there was any trace of uncertainty in the young man's eyes. He couldn't find any. The whole thing's a mess, he continued. Dean McConnell arrived in Pineville a couple weeks ago and spent basically the whole time in his cabin at the end of the Holler Down Company Street. Came here to mourn his late wife Kate, God rest her soul. He was a local, you know, daughter of Sheriff Vaughn. Okay, so the guy who got murdered had a dead wife who was the daughter of a previous sheriff. Okay, I just want to keep track of all this in my mind. To mourn his late wife Kate, God rest her soul. He was local, you know, daughter of Sheriff Vaughn, guy who ran this mighty town before me. Sheriff puffed jokingly while grabbing his wide belt buckle, but turned to a sour demeanor when he remembered the subject. She basically grew up in that cabin, and then she would come with Dean once every few months ever since they started dating. Harris could hear the build-up of the phlegm in the sheriff's mouth as he continued his story. He almost noticed the spit bucket at the foot of his desk, which he tried his best to ignore it from that point forward. So Dean lodges up in the cabin, and a few days pass without anyone hearing from him. He came down eventually for a grocery run, and my deputy Otis Bailey from the file, Harris jumped in. That's him, fine man, that is. I'll tell you what. Otis informed Dean about the blizzard alert and suggested that he might be better off taking refuge in the motel down the road instead of getting trapped up in the mountains. When stuff like this happens round here, we need to bring in plows from Brenton or Wyoming. You could get stuck in one place for about a week, especially if you're living at the end of a holler. End of a holler. So anyway, Dean couldn't be convinced to give up the cabin, which was understandable given his personal situation. Blizzard came in the next day and pushed so much snow on the road that you could barely drive with chains on your wheels, never mind walk. And there was the spit. A couple days later, he phoned in at the precinct asking for a house call, said he heard some steps and voices outside, and he suspected someone was trying to break into the cabin. So I sent Otis over to check up on him. Otis came back, said everything was alright. Got another call a couple days after that, same thing, but now Dean seemed in a mighty lot of distress. Oh, that's a mighty lot of distress it is, boy. Sorry. It's just the whole mighty, like, oh, that's a mighty big thing you got there. You know what I mean? It just, Southern people do talk, like, they do have sayings and shit like that, but it just strikes me as funny, you know? In a mighty lot of distress, but the blizzard can't, but the blizzard must have damaged the phone lines, cause we couldn't really make out what he was saying. So I sent Otis again. That was 3 days ago, and he hasn't returned since. His truck was still there by the McConnell's cabin, same as Dean's car, but no trace of Otis. We towed the cars in the meantime, sent them to Morgantown for some analysis. Day after Otis went missing, I drove up there myself with 2 other officers, which is when we found the house devastated and the bloody scene inside. The sheriff spat into his bucket again and then took a moment to drive away. The disgust that could be read on his face. Harris didn't rush him. Besides the general rustle and bustle of a normal home invasion, broken doors and windows, furniture thrown around, there was a lot of blood. I mean, a lot of blood. Boy, in pieces. Thompson frowned, his gaze falling idly towards the floor. What do you mean? Like the devil himself decided to throw a big old barbecue and dumped all the scraps in that cabin. We sent a few samples together with the 2 cars. The rest is still at the scene? I sure hope so. Even though it's cold as a witch's tit out there, we got no shortage of wolves and bears in these here woods. And given the damage to the cabin, well, let's just say there ain't anything that can make its way inside now. See, that I find that last line confusing because I thought he was saying that the cabin was like damaged and the windows and stuff were broken, and so I'm like, so then bears and wolves could get in, right? But then he's saying, well, let's just say there ain't anything that can make its way inside now. So that I find that line kind of confusing, but. Do you mind if I go take a look now? Of course not, but I'll come with you. It's a bit of a windy road getting there, and you gotta learn the road to make sure your truck don't get stuck. 2. Harris followed Thompson to the parking lot and jumped into the passenger seat of the sheriff's pickup truck. They started cruising down Main Street, careful not to slip on the ice that was still forming on some areas of the asphalt. Harris looked all around, taking in what seemed to him the elements of a modern ghost town. Okay, so already I mean, we'll finish the first few parts of this story, but already I have to say I think it's a little coincidental that the prior, we don't know how the victim, we'll just call him the victim, I forget his name, the guy who died in the cabin, we don't know how his wife died, and his wife was the daughter of the previous sheriff. I'm already getting heavy Baraska vibes. Am I wrong? You know, I mean, just let's be honest here, because that is what, already super small town, you know, not that this sheriff is necessarily evil, but it's like they came back every few months or whatever and always stayed up in this cabin. I'm not saying it's exactly like the wife who died, you know, like she could have been in on it or she could have been not in on it, but either way, to have the previous sheriff like, I bet the wife died under mysterious circumstances, right? The husband came back to the hometown because ultimately he knew that it had something to do with people from there. And then while he's up in the cabin, some bad shit happens. And, you know, it could be a monster or it could be foul play. We really don't know yet, but I think it's too, you know, like, where is this previous sheriff dead? Like, where is he in all this? That's my big question mark that I have right now. And as much as it maybe seems like, oh, there was blood everywhere, it was like you know, a monster got, it really seemed like, you know, like crazy because there was all this torn up flesh and stuff, and it could be monsters too, but like, I'm thinking, I don't know, that to me just seems like it's also could be part of the cover up, you know. And now this other deputy or officer went missing, like, that is fishy too, because I'm like, that usually when a underling cop goes missing too, that's because he walked in on something, or, you know, something like that. Yeah, I think this sheriff definitely is nicer for sure, and I don't know that this sheriff is necessarily part of anything, but it just seemed like, because we already, like, he just said this was a run-of-the-mill murder, but now we have a run-of-the-mill murder, like it said at the beginning, but also a missing cop along with that. So it's like, and a bloody, gory, fucked up scene that it sounds like bodies got completely disassembled, you know, is what they made it sound like. I mean, they made it sound like people were completely unrecognizable. So now I'm wondering, I'm just wondering what it could be, like, what, you know, could Otis, the deputy who went missing, could he be involved, you know, or was he just you know, wrong place, wrong time, he got exposed to something, you know. Hold on one second. All right. Most of the smaller buildings he noticed earlier were decrepit shops, long abandoned by their owners. Oh shit. Oops. Long abandoned by their owners. Boarded windows, insulation from the walls, and broken lights. He saw houses with old metal doors covered with police tape, warning about the uncertain structure of the building. He saw bent doors, broken down doors, non-existent doors. Even one of the bigger buildings he noticed while rolling into town seemed completely abandoned as well, now serving as a hobo hotel most likely. The few people who were walking down the street didn't seem to move with a purpose. Some of them weren't even dressed for the weather outside, as Harris noticed two skinny people talking on the side of the road, man and woman. The man was wearing some ripped jeans and not the fashionista type, while the woman was boasting some basketball shorts. Both of them were wearing hoodies. Ripped jeans guy was even wearing flip-flops. As the sheriff's car rolled past, they stopped and stared idly at the car. Harris could notice their ruffled, balding heads, their empty eyes, and crooked expressions. The small-town curse, he thought to himself. Everyone knows you, even the people you wouldn't necessarily want. The sheriff noticed Harris's curiosity and chimed in. This town has been going through a bit of a dry spell lately. Ever since the company pulled out of these hills, everything's been falling apart. The mining company? Harris looked through the town's Wikipedia page the night before. He remembered a chapter detailing the vast mining exploitations that happened throughout the area. Oh, so it's an abandoned kind of mining town. So it really is kind of a ghost town. I was almost like being like, why is there so many broken down buildings? But if literally like, you know, like the town has been abandoned by most of its whatever occupants or people that live there. Interesting. Because now I'm thinking, I'm like, maybe some junkies killed this guy, or, you know, maybe it's giving Baraska vibes in terms of the mining stuff, but also the, our town doesn't have a way to survive, you know what I mean? We need revenue. We need something to save the town, you know? Ever since the company pulled out of these hills, everything's been falling apart. It happened throughout the area. Sorry, I'm skipping to where I was. All the fuel for the Industrial Revolution came from coal. Harris couldn't help but notice the air quotes. And Pineville was one of the first towns built to fill that role. The company raised the first houses and shops and moved in a bunch of people from the big cities. They hired anyone who was willing to go into the heart of the hills and dig for coal, which was a lot of them at the time. What time was that? Year was 1907. On the internet, you'll read that this was the year this town was established. But it started a couple years earlier. That's when the first holes were blown open, at least. And it was a very lucrative business. Hills were untouched, and as soon as the veins were discovered, the cash started rolling in. Soon, every man in Wyoming County who could hold a pickaxe took his wife and kids and came here. They would work for a few years. Most would leave shortly after making a bank, some would settle in Pineville for good. Later on, the company store was built. It provided pretty much everything the miners and their families could have wished for. I guess it was a very dangerous job. Sorry, I didn't know who said that, if it was Harris or whatever, but you could manage to survive the coal dust explosions and the occasional collapses for 10 or 15 years, but by that time, your back and joints would be so messed up you could barely walk anymore. Even during the 60s and 70s, when they started bringing in the drills and the miners didn't have to go crawling through the tunnels and chiseling the coal out by hand, black lung would still get to them. It got everyone who worked in these mines long enough, and once you got it, you either retired or went on working for a few more months, trying to earn as much credit for your family before kicking the bucket. Risk of the job, I guess. I take it you're not happy with the industry. Don't get me wrong, the company did a lot of good for this town, while still supplying the entire West with power, but it also did a lot of bad. They seem to be exiting the small town now, and there were no more buildings in sight. There was just the windy road and the white, snow-dusted forest spreading toward the top of the hills on either side of the sheriff's truck. Soon they could see a right turn coming up ahead. On the corner stood a large, 3-story stone building raised on a platform. The building, like all the others Harris saw thus far, looked completely empty. Most of the back walls fell into big stone piles behind the structure, probably the doing of landfalls, a plague of a hillside town in West Virginia. Of all hillside towns in West Virginia. There were no windows or doors left, and the plaque at the top was still frozen over and unreadable. It was a shell of what seemed to have been a very important establishment. That's the company store, the sheriff explained before Harris could voice his curiosity. The sheriff stopped the truck in the dead center of the road, close enough to the building so Harris could take a better look. The headquarters for all the mining operations. This was the heart of the town until some 30-odd years back. So far from Main Street? Well, boy, you want to put the heart as close to the life force, right? The mines were the lungs of the town. Ironically, it filled the store with money, and in turn the store would send the credit over to the town. Credit? Never heard of credit? I guess I'm not surprised. It didn't help. Yeah, so we're getting a mine thing, and this is how it was essentially a way that the mining companies could enslave workers. Rather than paying them with money that they could spend anywhere, they would get paid. I don't know if it was optional or what, but they could essentially get paid in credit, but the credit had to be bought with the company store. So it was like you accumulated all this credit, and you could even use it to like pay for your housing or whatever else, or the company would pay for your housing as long as you were working. But then You can only spend the money with the company at the company store, essentially. It didn't help. It didn't help in bringing small mining settlements closer to the rest of civilization. You see, miners didn't get their salaries in good old dollar bills. No, they got paid in credit, which was a currency solely valuable within the company store. Not even all company stores. If you worked in Pineville, you couldn't just take your credit and buy food or house appliances. In Rockview or New Richmond, you had to spend it here. Your existence was tied to what the store provided. It was a pretty ingenious way of making sure working men wanted to keep working or living here, providing more value to the corporations. That sounds awful, honestly. Awful or not, that's what life was like here. The sheriff pressed on the gas while turning right, circling the building. The truck's bodywork squealed as it entered a seam, semi-frozen dirt road. It all started going downhill in the 80s. What with the whole work safety revolution and all, plus the world opened up more to people from smaller towns. Okay. People didn't want to take risks busting their asses working for coal. They wanted to go make a name for themselves in Chicago, Nashville, or New York. That's when they started closing down the mines. One by one, Pinnacle Mine was one of the first to go down. It's been 20 odd years years at this point. One day, the company just packed up and left, taking most of the equipment and all of the money away. People were left fending for themselves, trying to re-educate into other business areas. I worked in Pinnacle for a few years myself before joining the force, you know? Really? Harris forced himself? He sounded surprised and hoped the sheriff didn't notice. He suspected all older men here and some women actively worked on the coal operations. Yeah, got out without a scratch, luckily. Don't know about you, but I enjoy sitting in an office and answering disturbance calls much more than inhaling fumes all day, you know? And because the mining stopped, people started doing stupid shit. Yeah, poverty and desperation makes people act in strange ways. Drugs are now a big problem here. Used to be pot and things were tamer. Then heroin rolled in from the big cities, which turned everything up to 11. You get kids breaking into people's homes, selling their mother's jewels for a hit. It's such a shame. Harris couldn't find a better way to continue the conversation. The sheriff puffed approvingly and turned silent. The road started going uphill at quite an angle, slithering every couple hundred feet. Every once in a while, they would pass by a small house or two. White plaster, thin windows, low-risen roofs. Houses that were built out of poverty and resisted out of desperation. The whole area seemed eerie for Harris. The houses were too sparse, too spaced out, and there were no fences anywhere. He tried to imagine what it would be like living here. He was certain that during the summer it would be almost idyllic, but during wintertime, you wouldn't feel more stranded floating on a raft in the middle of the ocean. Soon, they went through a really sharp curve. On the corner stood a white church built of wood panels, with one tower stretching higher than any of the other buildings he saw on Main Street. It was on par with the pine trees that were surrounding it. "Looking kinda weird, huh?" The sheriff smiled and glanced at Harris in the way a native does to a foreigner when they're exposing the peculiarities of their culture. "What use does a church have here?" "Each holler is its own community. You can think of it as separate universes that converge to Main Street. You can think of it as separate universes that converge to Main Street. People here all know each other. They talk to each other, ask each other for help, provide services for one another. Only people in this holler attend this church. They don't really take kindly to strangers. When one of them sees a strange person or a strange car, they phone others and let them know. God knows I got my fair share of disturbance calls where some tourists ventured into someone's property and end up being shot at. No fatalities, luckily." "They're afraid of the drug addicts?" "Mostly, like I told you. Hollers are something else. And they got their own culture, let's say. Their own way of handling things. And as long as the law allows it, we're fine with that." The icy road turned one last time before the ascent was over. The trees that crowded the scenery for the last 30 minutes or so gave way to a snowy plateau that stretched far ahead. Harris thought it looked like a castle's walls, with the thick outline of the trees lining the edges of the hilltop, some 100 feet on each side. He took in the view of the other surrounding hills up ahead when he noticed something in the distance. He couldn't make it out exactly from that distance, and the sun beaming on the snow wasn't of any help, but he knew they were almost there. That was the McConnell house. Alright, part 3. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen once they get there. Sheriff Thompson stopped the truck at a safe distance but kept the engine on. He didn't say anything. He knew there was no need for words. He just let Harris take it in. The young deputy opened the door and stepped on the screeching snow. The cold wind blew hard against his head, but he didn't notice it. He was trying to comprehend what he was looking at. The building, or what was left of it, looked like one of those serene mountainside lodges you would take your family to for a few nights to get your fill of hot chocolate, plaid blankets, and generic Christmas songs. It had thick wooden beams and small paned windows, with the two stories being separated by a foundation of cobblestone. Half of the lower level was burned down, with a massive hole carved in the right side of the building. Rubble and half-charred pieces of wood lay everywhere around the porch. Even though the house stood a good 5 feet from the ground, thanks to its thick foundation, he could see a large part of what he thought was a kitchen through the gaping hole. He could see parts of a table, some old wooden cabinets, and a couple of chairs, all blackened from the smoke. The upper level didn't look any better either, with only a few beams remaining of what was a pretty large roof. Harris looked around for a moment. They didn't see any other buildings for a good 5 minutes before they reached the McConnell house. In the far distance, he could see another hill stretching even higher. A large part of it had been carved out. It looked as if a giant had taken a bite out of it, and he could barely discern a couple of trucks and some large pipes. Pinnacle Mine? Pinnacle Mine, the sheriff confirmed his thoughts. Harris looked back at the house and started making his way up the stairs to the porch, with the sheriff following closely behind. He could have just stepped over one of the beams and entered through the hole. He could have just stepped over one of the beams and entered through the hole, but it was a miracle that the building was still standing, so he didn't want to risk it. Instead, he cracked the open door ajar and made his way in. I feel like that's too many ways to say open in one sentence. Because even if the door was already open, just be like, the door was already open. He opened it fully and went inside, and made his way in. But to say, instead, he cracked the open door ajar. I don't know. Anyways, doesn't matter. And made his way in. The first thing that hit him was the smell. The smell of burnt furniture hung in the air like a thick fog. But it wasn't what bothered Harris necessarily. He could smell some other things as well, and his eyes adjusted with the darkness. He understood what the source was. In that moment, he knew that the sheriff didn't lie or play up what happened here. It looked like a massacre. On the floor, the countertops, beneath the kitchen table, there were pieces of tissue, small pieces of meat thrown everywhere, some with the skin still attached in loose strands that flowed in the draft that was blowing through the house. He saw large blood splatters on the walls around, with small pools building up from place to place under the bigger pieces. In that silence, Harris could hear a small tinkle of blood drops still falling to the floor from the pool that was formed on the table. Every surface Harris could see that wasn't burnt to a crisp was littered with meat, blood, or both. Oh God, Harris' voice cracked with visible uncertainty. He covered his nose and mouth with his elbow, trying to drown the stench of charcoal and decaying flesh with the tobacco and cheap perfume odor of his uniform. Indeed, Sheriff Thompson's hoarse growl boomed in the enclosed space. He didn't seem much more at ease either, even though he tried harder to hide his disgust. Harris looked up for a moment, trying as best as he could to detach himself from what was around him and from the feeling that was starting to bubble inside him, and saw a thousand red dots on the ceiling At first, he thought they might have been part of the decor with their consistent pattern and shapes, but the pattern was not as perfect as he initially thought, and realized what they actually were. He noticed something hanging from one of the fan blades. It took a couple steps toward it, carefully avoiding the stains on the floor. He turned his flashlight on and directed it to the fan. At first, he didn't understand what he was looking at. The mangled mixture of black, gray, and red dazzled the deputy for a few seconds until he discerned the shapes. From the ceiling fan hung a piece of scalp. Oh God. With the hair still firmly attached to it. The scalp was stuck to the fan blade by a small piece of what Harris could only assume was brain. Oh, gross. The harsh cold was sending shivers through Harris' spine as he stood bent over, staring at the puddle. Sending shivers through as he stood bent over, staring at the puddle of his own vomit seeping through the thick layer of snow. The sudden nausea that engulfed every inch of his being mere seconds ago, and which made him run outside as fast as he could, didn't lose its grip quite yet. His chest was heaving uncontrollably, but he forced himself to breathe through his nose, and he could feel another load slowly making its way up. He jerked upright when the sheriff's large hand patted him on the shoulder. "It's all right, Sonny. Take all the time you need. Wouldn't blame you if you wanted to head to a motel. Had the same reaction when I first saw this place." I'm better now, thank you." Harris felt spent, dizzy, but the thought of the promotion crept in. "Still want to finish a sweep of the whole place. Make sure I gather any evidence that might be useful for the investigation. Whenever you're ready." That was pretty awesome. I think... So I have a few notes. I was trying to refrain from... I think there were some parts that were worded a little, like, hinky. They were, like... It wasn't that, like, any parts were, like, straight up bad or, like, poorly written. It's just that I think this could have... What I would recommend to this writer to do is to read, especially when you have these, like, long sentences or these parts where you're describing, like, them going through the house or doing multiple things, like, I would say read them out loud a few times. Like get them out, get them down on paper, just however you have to, write them out. But then, like, in an editing process or whatever, I would say read them out loud a few times, because there's just a few parts that get kind of like, it sounds like he's gonna say one thing but then he says another thing, or it sounds like he's like, I'm trying to think of a specific example. Yeah, I think there was even one at the end with, so like, he sees the brain, which this reveal was awesome, with the brain and the scalp hanging off the fan. I could see it, I felt it, I practically smelled it. It was definitely gave me, sent shivers down my spine, was gross. Then he says, "The harsh cold was sending shivers through Harris's spine as he stood bent over, staring at the puddle of his own vomit seeping through the thick layer of snow. So right now I was like, oh wait, but he was just inside the house, but now he's in the snow. So then I immediately, as the reader, go, oh, he must have ran outside and puked in the snow in like a quick, haze of like panic and nausea. And then it goes on to say, the sudden nausea that engulfed every inch of his being mere seconds ago, and which right there, obviously a typo, you just need to get rid of and there, which made him run outside as fast as he could, didn't lose its grip quite yet. So it's kind of a bit of a run-on sentence. The and which obviously makes it sound like that, but also it's like I've already from the last sentence put together that he ran outside, and from this next sentence really all our writer's trying to say is that the nausea hadn't gone away, even though he just threw up. There still was some. It was seeming like he might throw up more, basically, is what this sentence is trying to get out. And I feel like it was trying to do the work of telling us the sudden nausea that engulfed every inch of his being mere seconds ago, which made him run outside as fast as he could, didn't lose its grip quite yet. I feel like you don't need to necessarily say all that. Like, we're able to infer some of that from the line before. Like, I think you could just say, and the nausea still, like you could even just say, the harsh cold was sending shivers through Harris's spine as he stood bent over, staring at the puddle of his own vomit seeping through the thick layer of snow. The sudden nausea that had sent him running outside mere seconds ago hadn't lost his grip, like hadn't lost its grip. And then his chest was heaving uncontrollably, but he forced himself to breathe through his nose. Yeah. So, like, his chest was heaving uncontrollably, but he forced himself to breathe through his nose, even though he could feel another load slowly making its way up. Like, it's just, there's some words in there that are, like, filler words, but it's like, as he could feel another load making its way up, when it's like, I don't think you need as, I think you need like even though or something like that. So there's just little tweaks that you could make that could make it read a lot easier. And I would say I think a lot of it would just be intuitive stuff that if you read like that last part, if you read this out loud, you could clean it up really quickly. And there might be other typos and stuff that I didn't point out, but that you could get rid of. But overall, I think the ending, I think it ended in a or not the ending, because this isn't the end, this is just the end of this part, but I think the part 3, it had a nice payoff in terms of us actually seeing the crime scene. And we saw the sheriff's hesitation, but we're like, well, he's just a small town sheriff, maybe he doesn't see stuff like this that often. Like, we don't really know. And then when we see our young deputy go out there and have a similar reaction, now we know that this is a cut above. Like, this amount of gore is unusual. These people were absolutely destroyed, almost like I keep bringing up Baraska stuff, but almost like Shiny Gentleman-esque. Like, these bodies were just completely put through a wood chipper and just sprayed all over the room. I mean, it's like that. It's that level of, like, I'm saying, just disassembly and, like, destruction of human bodies. And now I'm wondering, oh, this is a piece of hair, okay, and it's attached to brain and all that. Well, that could be a man's, but I'm like, how long is the hair? Could this be somebody else's dead body? Could our officer Otis or our deputy Otis and our victim, could they still be alive in some way? Could this be somebody else? We don't know. So this just, I'm gonna call this first part, the parts 1 through 3. This first part does a good job of giving us a setting, giving us the character of Harris. He doesn't really want to be here. He's not super motivated, like, inherently to solve this case. It's not like he cares about the mining town that much or justice being done, but he wants that promotion, and so he is motivated externally because of that. And he's not a careless, like, cop or detective, right? Like, he seems like he cares about the town. He looked up the Wikipedia pages. He cares to learn about the nature of the town, if only because it's part of his investigation. He's like, I want to, I'm trying to learn about the world that the victim inhabited, and it had the interesting stuff about the mines and all that stuff. And clearly this person, I would say, is like a Wendigoon fan who wrote this. They set it in Appalachia. They're, and obviously this is on the CREEPCAST thing, so most people are fans of both Hunter and Isaiah. But my point in bringing that up is that it seems like they wanted to set a horror in a realistic setting of a ghost mining town, modern day, a town that was abandoned by the mining companies, depressed, down on their luck, no opportunities, drug-addled society. And I think that's a cool setting for just, like, if it is a monster horror story, if it does go there, then that's cool. Right, you have the mention of the hollers and I don't quite fully know what holler means, but I assume those are just like the people living in the outskirts of the town, even, or the, like the really, whatever, the Appalachian people, they, there could be a lot with that. Like, there could be the church, there could be creepy stuff going on at the church. It could be something with the mine and the mining company. Like, there's a lot you can do with that, and that's one thing that I feel like Baraska did a lot with, kind of playing, even though it wasn't like Southern, or maybe it was in Missouri, I guess, but it wasn't so much like, bringing up that, it wasn't really playing on so much like the southernness of it, just as it was like the creepiness of it. But it did a lot with the old town and the mythology of the town, and how much the Prescotts really invigorated the town and saved the town, and all of those things, that I feel like this person is just kind of doing, not their own Baraska, because it is different. I mean, there's a detective coming to the town to solve a case, solve a murder, but I do feel like it's playing in a similar lane with kind of the mythology of them talking about the mines, and there's that mine, the one at the Pinnacle mine or whatever, and it's it's a nice like beginning, and I'm always a big fan of a detective story. Now, whether or not like this detective is just totally in over his head, or whether he's actually like a good investigator, or whether, you know, he's gonna be able to truly figure out what's going on, I mean, we'll see. We don't know yet, but I think it's a strong start. I think it's like a clearly defined, well thought out setting. I like that typically you would just have a time jump in a story where it's like they drove up to the cabin, they made small talk about the town, but then it would just get up there with like a quick paragraph. But I kind of liked that it described them driving out of the town and what they talked about, and gave more of the background for the town. I thought that was kind of clever to then have us finally get up there as things get more eerie and more creepy as they get farther and farther away from Main Street, you know, and they see the mines and they see the company store. I liked that touch, and I think that now, you know, now it's taken its time. It's done the pacing, it's well paced. It had a nice payoff at the end of part 3, and now I think it's just a question of, you know, what is going to happen next. How are things going to be uncovered? What are they going to find as they do a full search of the house? And what characters even are there at play? Because Otis is still missing. The one guy is dead, or presumed dead, the victim whose wife died. We don't know. There's the old sheriff, there's the junkies on the street. Like, we don't know. This could have been just junkies robbing them, and in a meth addled, you know, heroin induced psychosis, they just completely tore these people apart. Like, we don't know. We could think it's gonna go monster, but then maybe it's not. Maybe it's just gonna go human depravity. And so I like it. I think that that's a really fun way to start. I just also think that you know, this is the hard part about reading like these stories, right? It's because a lot of people want to write longer stories, and that's fine. That's great. But now now with this story, it's like, well, I'm just getting into it, right? I'm just getting into the payoff, or things are just getting good, right? And so that's what's kind of tricky. And we'll see. I don't know if Michael, if he has more parts. Well, he's got some other short stories, so that's good. Okay, parts 4 and 5 finale. So yeah, we do have the second half of the story here, and that's great. And so I'll definitely have to check this out. Maybe I'll read it on my own, maybe I'll read it on another stream or something. But I think it's a really strong start. I think that there's an art form to writing short stories, right? Because you want to take your time and make characters and a setting that people care about, but then also you want to get to the plot and things happening. And in this story, you know, a psychological horror like this, you want to get to the payoff moments of, you know, the crime being solved, or, you know, so to speak, or whatever's going to happen. And so yeah, I think that this story did a pretty good job of it so far. I'm just kind of bummed that I'm like, well, I only wanted to read the first 3 parts, you know, I only wanted to start it, and now I'm gonna move on to another story without kind of knowing how it ends. But I do really have to once again commend them that at least we got to see the crime scene, right? Because I do think that really, had that not have had the gruesomeness not worked so well, I think that the story wouldn't have had that payoff at the end of the first 3 parts, and then you wouldn't have people like me going, oh, I really want to know what happens. And so that is where it was really well done, that it got to the crime scene. You can tell that now Deputy Harris is like, this got under his skin, you know. He realizes that this maybe isn't going to be the little promotion, slam dunk sort of whatever case that he thought it was going to be, you know. And that's really fun. And so I think that's a great spot to kind of end. If you have to break the story into 2 parts, I think they did it at the perfect moment. And now I'm really just curious to see where it goes from here. I'm going to have to. I think I'll probably, you know, because it's only the next 2, you know, it's only 2 more parts. You know, it's only a total of 2 different links for the story. I think, you know, I'll have to. And it looks like we get some time jumps here, maybe some like, you know, detectives or like logs of like call logs of what was going on. And that's fun. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, that's for sure. Shouts out to you, Michael-Wakefield. I'll have to check out some more of your stuff in the future. Hopefully this helped, you know. I know I didn't get to read your completed story. And so maybe next stream I will finish it. Hopefully I will. But you know, that just, it kind of is what it is. It's one of those things where I get sent the links to the stories, and you know, I wanna be able to read everyone's story all the way through. But I like to also read multiple stories on a stream, and so yeah. But thank you so much for allowing me to read it, and please, you know, keep writing. I saw that other title really intrigued me. The other one of your stories. Here it was like, it's called like Maple, maybe something. I don't know. Drowning Maples. I love that title. That's fucking awesome. So good. So good. I'm excited. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Drowning Maples. And if that is a single part story, like a, you know, not multiple links, maybe I'll check that one out. But now let's get to the I am an urban explorer for the US government. Now, urban explorers are typically just people that go into abandoned buildings and stuff. So if you were to do that for a US government, maybe your job is to clear abandoned buildings before they're demolished, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of what could be your job as an urban explorer, but you work for the US government. I'm trying to think of how, unless this dude's literally like, there's an abandoned factory and we heard there's a werewolf, there's a witch vampire werewolf hybrid in the building, and like that's how he works for he works for a special SCP part of the US government, which could be cool too. I'm kind of curious to see where the governmental part of this comes in. Very interesting. But this picture is absolutely haunting. I mean, it's very like Chernobyl-esque. I think this, whatever silo or, tower is so creepy behind it, and then in the front you just have this like disheveled, like almost broken arch bridgeway thing. It almost looks like a castle in a way. It's very cool. It's very like, I don't know. I want to know if this picture is, assuming that this author didn't just find this picture somewhere online, which in that case it's still very cool, but if they know this place in real life, and if they like took this picture themselves or got it from their own lived experience, like that's fucking cool. I would be really curious to hear the story behind how this picture came to be, very cool. But let's get into the next story now. I am going to go make a gamer subs real quick. Shout out to gamer subs. Please sponsor me. I know you guys usually sponsor bigger YouTubers, but if you want to sponsor an up and coming YouTuber with only 75 subscribers, so get in early, I'm here. I don't need my own flavor. I'll just take a $10,000 check, that's fine. But anyways, I'm going to go make some of that just cuz I don't want to start yawning or getting tired during this next story. We still got a lot to do, folks. So we need to lock in. It's 2:27 a.m., but for me that's like let's see, that's like noon. That's like noon. It's like noon for me usually. So maybe like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So yeah, anyways, we will get into it here. I'm gonna play some more Mother Horse Eyes for you guys while I go really quick make this make this energy drink.
Characteristically beautiful, he looks like a painting, describing him as a forlorn angel. His skin is paper white, and underneath run thousands of tiny branching veins that seem to throb with his pulse. She kisses him and smells something sweet, tastes something sweeter. Corey looks on and enters into some speech saying, "Oh, I love you, don't go off with him," something he's programmed to say. And then the tall man reaches over, grabs Corey's face, and pulls it off. Blood sprays everywhere across the dance floor. Our user, whose name we find out is Zinzin, is surprised by this and assumes she stumbled onto a horror narrative. Perhaps this tall guy is some kind of vampire. The now faceless Corey, pouring blood, just stands there doing nothing. Again, he's not programmed for this. The tall man pours the blood from Corey's face over her and begins to lick it off. But at this point, she thinks she's in some kind of 80s vampire romance flick. So because there's no need for social standards, she gets turned on by this and they start getting naked right there on the dance floor. The tall man picks her up and they begin, She notices that the music is still going, but everyone in the club has stopped moving and is standing still, watching them. All the people in the club move close and begin touching her. It's at this point she thinks the light has shifted. She says that now it looks like she is seeing everyone from 2 different angles. She looks at the man and it appears he has 4 eyes instead of 2. Next to her, a woman opens her mouth and her jaw begins to float away from her face. Her head then floats off of her neck. Another man suddenly appears in a dozen slices. Everyone follows suit and begins to break apart. And then everything comes crashing down. All around us, the people begin to break apart, becoming floating parts. The weird lighting effect becomes more intense, and the man seems to be made of 4 sections, except each section is his entire face from a different angle. And they're all crossing each other, but staying in place at the same time. The 8 eyes are watching me. Oh no, this is hurting my brain. I can't take this. The narrative should have already crashed back into safety mode. I say my safe word, nothing happens. I feel my stomach drop and tear, except it drops at 4 different places and all around the room. Oh no, am I stuck in a crashing narrative? They say it could screw you up. I feel myself falling and expanding. One of my hands feels like it's way off the horizon. Another is 10 stories below me. Body parts are swirling around us, showing all sides at once. The man is staring down at me with his awful eyes. How are they so awful? His face is as giant as a mountain range, as the entire sky. I'm seeing too much. No, above and beneath. Everything has too many sides, screaming. He has dozens of eyes, thousands of sides, thousands and millions of eyes. God. It seems that Q is no longer interested in keeping up the facade. Karen is gone. She has all of the power she could ever need. And so the feed realms begin to show what they truly are. Multi-dimensional planes that don't need to conform to the 3D space because it makes humans comfortable. She lets her creatures from prehistory loose, the crone and this wicked angel. This fallen angel more akin to a demon. His true form is as large as a mountain range, a demon with millions and millions of eyes. A horrific, monstrous, and devilish version of Thrones or Ophanim. The feed realm no longer needs to comfort humanity, and now humans are in the way. And we see what happens when someone experiences hyperspace when they weren't ready. We then come back to Ben and Karen's story after they made their escape from Atlanta. They run into a hospital's emergency room. From the television set, it seems that Atlanta was not the only city that was struck, as a total of 12 cities around the world were hit at the same time. Because of this, no one seems to notice Ben and Karen making their way inside. Also, the 12 has continued symbolism. It said earlier that the bread are believed to be the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel. The skinship was said to have 12 tentacles, and now 12 cities were destroyed. 12 carries biblical significance and ties back into Mother being related to ancient histories and religions. Karen says this is Q's opening move, and she will continue to destroy until we're willing to meet her demands. He brings Karen to a muscle treatment chamber that is made to treat people coming out of hygiene beds. Given her state, this probably won't give her the ability to walk, but at least she can see and speak. Ben remarks, "How do I know you're not full of it? How do I know you didn't blow up Atlanta?" Karen asks how she could prove it, and then asks if he knows anything about statistical proxy distillation tracing. He says no, and she says, well, then it would be hard to prove it. Karen remarks again that they need to go to upstate New York in order to fight Q. Karen says if it makes Ben feel better, he can pull her sensory jack. So that, she couldn't order any more nuclear strikes if that's what he's afraid of. She says that what's in upstate New York is a resource Q can't access. Karen then remarks, and again, she still can't speak, so all of this is in messages. I'm not Q. I spent my life fighting Q. I fought Q instead of living a life. We still have a chance to win. We must win. Ben then puts her in a recovery bed to treat her muscles and eyes. Ben hears the alarm in a nearby room for a malfunctioning hygiene bed. His job for years has been to take care of people in hygiene beds, so he instinctively runs in there. He looks at the hygiene bed that is alarming and sees that it is someone named Zin Zin, the same woman from the 80s storyline we just read about. He thinks the bed must be malfunctioning. It's reading that her heart is beating at 260 beats per minute, and she's only been in this connection for 47 minutes. He says, I pressed the seal button and the bed lid opened up. When she came into view, I staggered back and shouted for help. We don't know what became of her, but considering what happened at the end of her storyline, we can assume what happened to her in the feed realm had massive effects on her physical form. Ben then pulls Karen out of the hygiene bed. Her voice is flat and deep, but she's now able to speak. She still can't see that well, remarking that she only sees persistent shapes, and she was able to stand up but was still unable to walk. He puts her in scrubs and then asks, what is Q? Karen takes a deep breath and begins, okay, so approximately 50,000 years ago.
All right, let's get into it. I'm an urban explorer for the U.S. government. Rude dude, you still here? You still with me, bro? Danny, I think you're still here. Maybe not, though. That's okay. You guys had to leave. I understand. We all gotta sleep sometime, right? If you're reading this, it means I made it past the Plantier web crawlers. Ooh. It means I made it past the Plantier web crawlers. This is not entirely a mistake. If I can say anything at all, It's because I was allowed to. That's also why I'm posting here. Disguising something as fiction and dropping it where nobody in their right mind would think otherwise goes a long way. Who am I to judge what constitutes a right mind at this point? I used to think I could live with all the secrets, that the money was good enough to keep me quiet. I like this beginning. It's very conversational, which is fun. And I've seen people do this with other things, like, well, I'm posting it on here because people will just assume that it's fake, and so I can get away with it. Like, this is why, my job or whatever won't be able to, there won't be repercussions from me, like, leaking all these secrets, is because I'm technically posting it on a fiction, site or whatever. And that, I like that, that makes sense, and that it's a good way to kind of introduce your story for, like, the no sleep rules to get it on there. But what or maybe not exactly for no sleep, but, you know what I mean? Like, to get past some of those people that are like, well, how did it find its way, or whatever. But I kind of like that it's like, it like immediately starts with like something to where you're like, Plantier web crawlers, what the fuck is that? But then it's like, this is not entirely a mistake. If I can say anything at all, it's because I was allowed to. Where nobody in their right mind would think otherwise goes a long way. Who am I to judge what constitutes a right mind at this point? I used to think I could live with all the secrets, that the money was good enough to keep me quiet. And then it doesn't even go like, but it's not, but the horrors are too great, the money isn't worth it. It doesn't even say that at this point. It's almost like a stream of consciousness. It's almost like that this person is just spilling out their, maybe not like their final words, but their last like testament, and they're writing it. They're not caring if we fully understand it. They're writing it for themselves, you know what I mean? So that they can have the peace of mind or whatever. And that's, I don't know, that gives me, it just is something that I like. I've read too many, or not even that I've read personally, but I've just heard too many beginnings of stories where they're very like, if you're reading this, it means that I'm dead and blah blah blah, and it's very just like cliche, but this kind of does it, but it does it in an interesting way where it makes it almost more personal, even though we don't know this person yet. We'll get to know them, but it's like it's using inside baseball terms and stuff that only they understand. Like, it just immediately starts, it means I made it past the Plantier web crawler. It's or Palantir, I don't know what that word is. Cool. It's cool. I like it. I think it's a good beginning, and I like that it's not like, I used to think I could live with all the secrets, that the money was good enough to keep me quiet. But now I have to, and typically this sentence would go on longer, where it's like, but now I have to tell you all, I can't live with myself if I don't warn people, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? But it just doesn't do that. It just says, I used to think I could live with all the secrets, that the money was good enough to keep me quiet. And it's like, it takes away that next part, which you don't even need to say anyways, right? Because obviously they're gonna tell you the story. You know, that's obviously why they're telling you. So I like that. I'm a contractor for the U.S. government. I'm aware of how vague that sounds, but it's the most specific I can really get without setting off alarms. My company is a pretty standard shell that coordinates dispatch, retrieval, and payment for people like me who investigate places that no longer exist. Ooh. That's fucking cool. I like that. I'm the kind of guy who couldn't hack it at a 9 to 5. I'd rather dodge rental cops, sneaking into a boarded up Cinnabon at 2 a.m. to map holes in reality, then sit in a cubicle all day pretending I don't want to suck start a 9mm. Jesus Christ. Okay, so already we're getting a few things answered. Clearly he's gonna be vague about like his name or even, you know, his company, but he's a contractor, you know. The government, basically there are holes in reality, other dimensions, whatever, back rooms, maybe, you know, could be any type of place from what I understand. And maybe they're all the same. Maybe there's only one other reality and he's just finding all the different holes that lead to it, kind of like a backroom situation where, you know, there's this other reality that's the complex that, you know, people get sucked into and blah blah blah. Maybe it's like that, or maybe it's all different. We don't know yet, but his job is to coordinates dispatch, retrieval, and payment for people like me who investigate places that no longer exist. So he not only investigates the places himself, the holes in reality, so to speak, but he also coordinates and helps other people who investigate these places, which is a pretty cool premise. I like that. Abandoned places are dangerous in plenty of obvious ways. Broken glass, black mold, the occasional meth kitchen, or the homeless dude who has every right to be there because no one else is. As a kid, running around a dying mall or crumbling factory felt like freedom. A haven for breaking shit, tagging walls, and pretending that being edgy would somehow make me madder. I love this. I do like the honesty of the when I was a kid breaking into places and tagging shit and, you know, would make me feel like I matter. You know, would somehow make me matter. It all seems insane now that I fully comprehend how getting busted or a round of tetanus shots were the least of my worries. Okay. The last thing I'll do to try to convince you not to go to an abandonment after telling you the things I know. Forbidden fruit being the sweetest in all. All I offer is my story. Do with it what you will. My career began around 6 years ago under the instruction of a man I'll call Marcus, Marcus was an explorer through and through. The guy reeked of Marlboro Reds and spent every minute between gigs researching the next spot he'd hit. He'd spent a lot of time in Europe as an exchange student, from what he told me. They've got it worse over there. Centuries more history producing everything from abandoned villages and towns to entire industrial complexes and bunkers. I had explored spots all over the Midwest with him and other friends, on and off for about 6 months. I had finished up a stint of incredibly soul-draining jobs and needed time to reset, mostly pretending I was somehow closer to deciding what to do with my life. Exploring was one of the few things I did back then that made me feel tangibly alive. I can see that. The need to look around the corner. What I like about this character, I think, is because I've had that feeling before of finding a way into, like, I've explored some abandoned buildings as a kid. I would never say I was an urban explorer, but I've done it. You know, kids do shit like that, and I like went into an abandoned factory, or like office kind of building, I guess you could say, and it does make you feel some kind of way. I think especially as a kid, you know, you're seeing you're in an area you shouldn't be, so there's that level of excitement to it. You also don't know if there might be like homeless people, whatever, dangerous people living there, so there's the danger. But then also there's just like the overwhelming sense that you found something that other people don't know about, that is your secret hiding place, your secret spot, your secret whatever. And that I think, you know, in an era where I don't know if I'm ever gonna be able to even own a house, it feels pretty cool if I can find like a specific. I mean, I think I would feel the same way if I found a cave, you know, out in the middle of nowhere that I thought no one else knew about. It doesn't have to be necessarily man-made. I think it's just the sense that when you find that thing that's like, you're like, this is like the perfect cool hangout, you know. It's that whole idea of being a kid and having the clubhouse, you know, like in Little Rascals, or the tree house where all the kids hang out, like you see in old movies. And if you grew up as a kid not having one of those places, or not having like a buddy's basement where you could all go and hang out or something like that, if you grew up like not having that, but then finding, even if you didn't go there like a bunch of times, even if you only went there 1 or 2 times, it's cool to have that feeling of like, oh, we found this place that's just ours, that our parents don't know about, that no one else knows about, you know. And even if you're a young adult, it can still be cool, because it's like, yeah, it's something that you're like, everyone else thinks that place is like abandoned or blocked off. It's, you know, it's got fences around it. Everyone else thinks that you can't get in there, but I know a way in, you know. It makes sense. I do think there's something incredibly human and like relatable about that feeling of feeling tangibly alive, as our author describes it. I feel like I know exactly what. One day, when Marcus and I were supposed to meet for coffee and planning, someone else was there with him. She stayed seated but offered her hand as I walked up to the table where Marcus was lounging. Her grip was firm, and she gave Marcus, who was oblivious to my presence, lost in his screen, a curt look before greeting me. Joshua, right? Yeah, sorry if I seem surprised. Mark didn't mention anyone. That's perfectly alright, she said. Marcus has kept me updated on your progress. My associates and I believe you might be just the kind of person we're looking for. Please, have a seat. I smiled awkwardly and nodded in feigned interest as I sat. My patience with this lady was already wearing thin after her interruption, but I couldn't help being curious why some suit was trying to hire me based on my qualifications as a vagrant. Like a job? Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Marcus pausing his frantic typing to take a sip and chuckle at my confusion. A position is on the table, provided you meet standards, she said. Marcus will fill you in on the specifics. I simply needed to make contact. That will be all for now. It was a pleasure meeting you. He stood. Before I had time to mutter a half-hearted, sure, he'd already strode past me, placing a hand high on my shoulder. Good luck. Marcus snorted into his Americano, tossing a lazy "later, Judy" in her direction without taking his eyes off the screen. I let the silence stretch long past the third trimester before finally breaking it. Fill me in on what? Are we still checking out the cement plant today? Marcus fiddled with his tabs for a moment, then spun his laptop around. Several windows were open. An aerial map, structural layouts at least 50 years old, and finally an incomplete wire transfer, the routing number of which looked suspiciously like my own. He has a wire transfer number? He's a vagrant who has a wire transfer number? That's funny. I find my method of recruitment more fun, he said. But in full disclosure, that's higher than your normal rate on account of onboarding costs and a bonus. It had a lot more zeros than a Pizza Hut pay stub. Marcus, who are you? He smiled, the smile of a man who'd just pulled off a massive joke, but in his eyes something else shined. The intensity of it both drew me in and made me want to look away. One good question begets another, he said. So I'll ask you. If you see a tree fall in the woods and it makes no sound, what would you do about it? What? We'll talk shop on site. Come on, we're burning daylight. He closed the laptop and slid it into his messenger bag. I finished the last of my cheap drip coffee and watched as he stood and made a beeline for the door, tossing a few bucks on the table for a waitress. I considered my position carefully. I had known Marcus just long enough to go along with whatever this was. I wasn't ready to believe it was anything other than some kind of prank. 40 minutes later, we made it through the last town before the factory. I caught glimpses of its single large smokestack from the freeway, but the trees obscured any view from lower down on the dirt road. Nobody seemed to be around when we passed through the main street. Then again, the cement plant had been shut down a few decades before I was born. There was an off-kilter swing gate blocking the access road with a sign that said, "Caution, sinkholes." Caution, sinkholes, right next to a no trespassing sign that was so sun-bleached it was hardly legible. Marcus pulled his Tacoma sharply around to face the direction we come from, leaving room for me to do the same behind him. He hopped out with a different bag slung over his shoulder, something I found odd since he usually made a point of traveling light in case we had to book it. Leave the tourist gear for this one, he said. I'll have everything you need. Otherwise, keep doing what you've always done. Try to just go with it. I'm sure things are moving quickly to you, but no amount of me yapping is going to help until you see. Alright then, lead on, oh knowing one, I joked. He didn't laugh. The man before me seemed much different than the one who sat grinning across the table less than an hour ago. Now he was sober, focused on me in a way I had not seen before. I pulled my digital camera and snacks out of my bag, then left the bag altogether, just stuffing a basic first aid kit and a few flashlights into my cargo pocket. Marcus handed me a respirator, the kind with detachable filters. We hopped the gate. The quiet was intoxicating after a few days away from a bando. Is that like abandoned building? Bando? Okay. The quiet was intoxicating after a few days away from a bando. The fall air was thick with humidity and it suited my lungs just fine. We crossed this shallow dike running parallel to a set of train tracks before deciding to skip a sketchy looking suspension bridge that went over a decent sized river. I'll admit, to this day, I've had a nicotine problem ever since I started running with Mark. But addiction aside, stopping to take that scene in and acclimate calmed my nerves after a strange morning. The acrid plume I slowly drew into my lungs grounded me. What's the skinny on this one, Marcus? Is there some kind of plan I should follow? We leaned against the wall of the silo stack. Marcus and I had skipped the rest of our usual sightseeing and went straight to the area marked on his map, a break in the wall leading down into the basement. Marcus took a moment to reposition the cigarette to the corner of his mouth before speaking, gesturing over his shoulder at the gaping hole in the roof. Follow my lead and do everything I say without hesitation. That's your plan for now. Any second thoughts? Lead on. We went. Any second thoughts? Lead on. We went. Just before the hole in the wall, Marcus donned his respirator and put on a headlamp, holding another flashlight in his hands. He adjusted the headlamp to point nearly straight at the ground. He adjusted to point nearly straight at the ground, then motioned for me to press my hand to my mask filter and inhale. The mask sucked tight to my face. Marcus nodded in satisfaction and flashed me a thumbs up. Keep an eye on your footing. Don't leave your flashlight on anything for more than a few moments. Let's go. We clambered down into the basement of the silo, ducking a hunk of ventilation duct hanging loosely from the ceiling. Everything, the thick dust hanging in the air after each step, the vulgar graffiti was par for the course. Marcus cracked a glow stick and dropped it at his feet. He painted a beam of light across the walls briefly, then took a left. I followed, not sure if I was starting to see things in the shadows or if the tension from the cafe was finally getting to me. It was when we passed the next corner and all the outside light had faded that I realized I wasn't seeing things in the shadows. I was seeing shadows themselves. Everywhere I swept my narrow beam, the darkness seemed to shrink away from it. A chill set in my spine, like watching CG Tom Hanks in Polar Express for the first time. That's such a good... That's such a good line. That's such a good, illusion and way of saying something is uncanny. Like, I immediately know what he's talking about. I love that line so much. Everywhere I swept my narrow beam, the dark seemed to shrink away from it. A chill set in my spine, like watching CG Tom Hanks in Polar Express for the first time. If this was a prank, Marcus would have had to violate the laws of physics. Good, you noticed. That's why I told you to keep your light moving. Needed to know if you were paying attention. The slower you move, the more obvious it is. He swept his own beam in circles around mine. The mist responded by growing thicker at the edges of the light. Don't do that too much. It seriously does piss it off, though. I ignored his apparent lack of concern for my worldview, shattering in real time. This is why we're here? Astute observation, young grasshopper. Ichthyophilosis is one of the things that likes to crop up when nobody's around. All you need to know is keep the light on and keep a spare handy at all times. I longed for the overcast sky outside. My offhand wrapped tightly around my backup light, and I tried to convince myself that Mama didn't raise a bitch. Funny. I think this is just what he was describing with the light, but I want to see what this is. Maybe it's not a word. Ichthyophilosis. Light. So it's like the shadows are avoiding the light instead of the light causing the shadows, I guess, is... Okay. Interesting. We continued, rounding another corner. We came into the main room I'd seen in the architectural diagrams. A run of conveyor belts under a silo stack. Marcus stopped to check various side rooms and a hopper that protruded from the ceiling. Finally, he set a small cube on the ground in the middle of the room, clicked on projecting a square of red laser light. Hey Stella, wanna come read the story with me? Yeah, come on. Come read the story. Wanna go? Hi, baby. Let you guys see Stella. Say hi. Say hi to the people on the stream. Right, we'll need to be a ways back for this part. Any shadows you cast makes the yield less. We really only get one shot at this. You place the ceramic tainer on top of the cube, a rectangle the same footprint, just taller. We backed out around the corner. Marcus clicked the remote and the laser incrementally rose toward the ceiling. He gestured for me to follow him back in. A crackle, a faint line of soot on the wall closest to the device. Damn, Mark, how powerful is that thing? Yeah, my bad. Don't look directly at it. It's a lot stronger than a laser pointer. What up, Harvey? What up? I don't know. Turn toast, turn it toast. Say poop balls. Congratulations. Now the box projected a small square on the ceiling. The dust revealed a wall of light matching the container's sides. Marcus shone his beam at the ceiling, then flicked it downward sharply. Gotcha. I reflexively inhaled as the several inches of air above the open container turned opaque, like ink blooming in water. Pretty neat, right? This is our sample. He fished a small lid from his coat pocket, approaching the light field gingerly, still compressing the black matter downward with his beam. It could get a bit hairy after I lit it. Follow my lead. Do not panic. Do you understand? Yeah? For what felt like a minute, I stood transfixed as he slowly lowered the lid before clamping it down with a hiss. A chill crept down my back. Too real to be imagination. Marcus's breath came out of his mask as a fog. My fingertips burned as if dunked in ice water. Turned toward the exit. Beside me, Marcus wrestled the container, slipping the metal clasps around it lengthwise, a motion that looked easier than it probably was. The container gyrated like something inside was spinning at impossible speed. And on the wall, I pressed my palm to the concrete. It felt warm compared to my fingers. Walk. The pounding of my heart drowned out the ringing in my ears. My vision narrowed to a tiny tunnel. I decided the mask wasn't going to stop me stop me from trying to hyperventilate. Stop. I froze mid-step and lowered my foot. Marcus looked at me without a hint of impatience. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, then open them. I obeyed. When I opened them again, pale gray light filtered down in distant rays through thick dust. There are two things wrong with this picture, Marcus said. One is in your hand and the other is on the ground. You'd better figure them out before we freeze to death. I stupidly looked down at my left hand before realizing the right was still curled around the chipped corner of the wall. We turned left to get down here, didn't we? I asked. Correct. And what did we leave at the entrance? The glow stick. No glow stick ahead. I turned right. The hallway should have been our exit. You're too hairy. The hallway that should have been our exit was swallowed in darkness. My beam reached only a few feet before being eaten alive. Fuck. Close your eyes again, Marcus said, and keep following the wall. You got this. My numb right hand scraped forward along concrete. I rounded the corner, one step, then another. We moved cautiously until the air warmed and the sound of wind swelling from outside brought me back. I opened my eyes. The whole back to the world was in front of us. Marcus nodded toward the glow stick on the ground. Go ahead and climb up. I'll just be a sec. His tone was different, lighter. That eased my mind. I scrambled up the broken wall, welcomed the muddled sky, and pressed my back to the silo. Slow breaths. My hands rubbed together for heat. I lit up to feel something warm. Marcus emerged a few minutes later. No worse for wear. Get even. Gnarly, right? I managed a half laugh. Are you going to tell me what the hell any of this was? Or what it has to do with the job? He laughed in my face. Nope. Go home and rest up. Call me when you pull yourself together. And if you're still interested, I'll give you the whole spiel. Sound fair? Not at all. But it doesn't seem like I'm in a position to complain. Where are you off to in such a hurry? He grinned, his back gently wriggled. Yeah, I'll walk you to your car. Come on. I didn't need the time off to decide. Hell, I didn't even need the walk back. I didn't have a clue what I'd seen and what that was. I didn't have a clue what I'd seen, and that was a rush like the rush. And that was a rush was unlike anything I'd ever felt. Sorry, typos there. Is there a dental plan? Not really, but that's not usually something someone making almost 6 figures worries about, is it? He said, patting my back. Oh yeah, Judy'll want this back. He plucked something from my neck, right where Judy had grabbed me earlier. Needed to make contact, huh? I asked. I thought something about the interaction was strange. What's her deal? Standard issue vital monitor and mic, just doing her job. Don't worry. She's usually not that weird. I couldn't tell if he was joking, and I was too tired to care. Every time Marcus had me thinking I knew anything about him, he found a way to remind me I knew absolutely nothing. I sat in my car for a long time. I had about an hour's drive back to my motel. It would be dark again soon. That was fucking cool. I first of all, I like the conversational nature of it. Some of the parts I felt like, were meant to be a little bit corny. Like, I felt like it was trying to do, like, even the name of the guy being Marcus, I feel like is a total homage to the thing in the basement's getting better at mimicking people. And I feel like this, although this is clearly like somewhat of a serious like, this isn't as goofy as a story. It's playing with some of those kind of funny tropes of, like, Marcus is some cool urban explorer who goes and catches these dimensional beasts, or because it seems like that's what he did. He like they found the part where the shadows were like moving away from the light. He sets the cube down. He like catches something. They make their way back out, but then things are getting like liminal and weird, where they're turning the wrong ways down the hallway, and they can't find the glow stick where they came in, you know. But that was fucking cool. I really liked I like the concept. I think it's really fun. I'm curious to hear what the whole spiel is, as Marcus puts it. Like, what is the whole thing? Is it gonna be like, well, we have to go to these sites where humanity doesn't live because that's where these other creatures live, and if we don't go and catch them, then they start to manifest and they start to get worse, and so we're essentially like trapping ghosts and demons and stuff before they like become a problem, before they like fully thought form, or whatever the word is for it. Like, before they fully come to fruition, they're catching them in their infancy and kind of like experimenting with them or harvesting. Like, who knows what they're doing once they catch him, because I fully believe that he just takes whatever he caught in the laser weird box trap thing. I totally believe he just gives that to Judy and whoever else, like the government or the company is, you know. And that's kind of it, and that's all they really know. But they're the frontline people. They're the ones who go into these places and have to catch these things, right? And then they figure out their way out from there. And I'm guessing different places like have more than one thing, or, you know, whatever. And I think that's a super cool concept. I think that's a really fun part one. We get introduced kind of to how our narrator does it, and it looks like there's up to a part 7. So we are clearly only scratching the surface of I'm an urban explorer for the US government, and we are getting, I don't think it says part 7 is the final part. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it was 5 months ago the part 7 was. But that's cool. I like it, and I love the idea that each place is gonna have maybe slightly different creatures, because this time we didn't really see a creature or anything. We just saw him. We just saw the weirdness with the lights and like with the physics and stuff, and then, you know, kind of went from there. So I like this sort of different take on maybe like a monster hunter or a supernatural, like, explore, instead of being like, oh, we're a monster hunter. It's like, well, we have to go find the parts where there are holes in our reality, or there are holes in our dimensions, and where things get through, or where, you know, wherever people aren't. So like in old broken down towns, buildings, whatever, these are the places where we kind of find these anomalies, and they have to go and like capture them or go and explore them. I think is super cool idea. I like it, and I love the whole tying it into just urban exploration and like how that makes you feel as a kid. I was right there with them. Or not even as a kid, but just as like a hobby, how it can feel to be in a creepy, unknown place, where like where life has already decayed, it's broken down. It's like, it's not, that is so fun. I enjoy that one a lot. I think I definitely want to read more parts, but I also think, Logan of Ireland, shout out to you. That was very funny. I loved the parts about, like, obviously the Tom Hanks and stuff. Like, such a clever way to just say something is uncanny instead of just being like, well, he said it's like, it sent a chill down my spine. It looks like the first time I saw CG Tom Hanks in Polar Express. And that's such a, like, clever, good way of describing something being uncanny that I'm here for it. I liked it a lot. Shout out to you. I think, like, there were a few typos and stuff, like I mentioned and stuff at the end, but overall it was very well written, and it was like very approachably written in terms of it did just seem like a diary or a log of like some kind of vagrant, whatever, funny dude who's trying to figure out his life when he fell kind of face first into this crazy supernatural job, like the part where he's like, I tried to convince myself mama didn't raise a bitch, and all, like, just little lines like that make it seem like this is just a regular dude from wherever they said they were from like the Midwest, it does give me that vibe a lot. And yeah, it just was a lot of fun. I definitely, again, it's another multi-parter that I'm like, God damn it, I wanna read more of that. So, but that's just great, shout out to Logan of Ireland. Support it. It looks like this is a multi-part series. He's done up to part 7. Go check him out, because this picture's awesome too. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at all these parts just to see, just for the pictures. I mean, damn, these are so cool. I love them. And what's kind of cool too is, like, as much as I'm guessing each story, right, they're gonna explore a specific location, but as the story goes on, I think we're gonna find out more of, like, what are they actually doing for the government? What are the government experimenting with these things? Is what they're doing truly for the greater good, or are they maybe doing some not so good things, and so you'll get those kind of late stage narrative parts too. And that, if you're gonna write a multi-part short story, I do think you need to approach it like that, where, just like a TV show, how each episode will be about a specific case, a specific story of like a detective show, right? You need to have both of those elements. So you need to have narratives that continue throughout multiple parts, but then you also need those individual stories or individual problems that get solved, right? Like, each episode a crime will be solved. We don't know what that crime is necessarily, blah blah blah. And so if you're gonna do these multi-parts, I think that is a really good way to do it, because it not only allows you to have people be like, okay, one and done. I read a story and I got a full story just after one part, and that's great. But then it also, it really gets them into becoming a regular reader, where then they're gonna read the later parts too. You know what I'm saying? I do think it's a bit of both that really that it really makes it very rewarding for me as a reader. Like, now I know the story of how this guy got started with his urban explorer in the US government job, but there's so much more I want to find out about. Okay, well, what was the little cube thing? What did they capture? What's the deal with Judy? What's the deal with, why did they need to, a heart rate monitor or whatever on his neck, that kind of makes sense. They want to know that he's not gonna like shit his pants or break down during one of these trips or whatever. But I'm like, why do they need a microphone? Like, what are all the tests that they put him through? That sort of a thing. So I'm here for it. I think that was awesome. That was a great part 1 for a series. I think if you're gonna write online horror or just online fiction in general, I think take a note from that last story in terms of, what do I want to get into in the first part, and then what do I maybe want to leave for later on? Because I think a lot of other people would have written that and spent a lot more time just having the narrator go on about what type of person they are and stuff like that. But it's like, no, that was very brief. We don't even, I think, know their name. And we might not get to know their name but they were just like briefly, like, it was in between a time when I had just worked some soul draining jobs and I was still pretending like I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, even though I just wanted to be, unemployed and kind of a dirtbag, or I just wanted to break into places, and so I think that it was really good in that sense that it's like, we still have so much more time to actually get to know our narrator, and maybe, are there anybody in his life? Like, does he have any other friends, or like a girlfriend or anything, or does he have like, parents, whatever? Is he an orphan? Maybe he's a loner and that's what attracted him to this type of a thing. We don't know, right? And so often I think people, because they want you to be invested with the character, they try to get all of those parts in the beginning so that you know them. But what also gets us invested into the character is we don't need to know that much about him or them. But if we understand the situation that they're in, if we understand the story and like what the stakes are, we will get interested in them, as time goes on. It just or we already are interested because we're interested in the plot, right? I think so often writers and people get told like, oh, you have to make the characters interesting, you have to do that. And so people spend a lot of time like establishing a character's backstory and all that stuff, when nothing, like, they've spent so much time doing that, there's no room or time in their story for stuff to happen to the characters. Like, and that's the tightrope that you gotta walk between, establishing character and backstories and motivations for characters, but then also having stuff happen to the characters that makes you interested, right? The plot. What's the plot? What's gonna happen to the characters? What story, what journey is the character on, and yeah, I think that last story just did a really good job of like getting right to the good stuff, giving us like a tone through the writing and stuff, giving us a tone of the character and like an idea of their attitude, their mentality, without even telling us that much about them specifically. We know the type of we don't always need to know who they are. We just need to know the type of person they are, and we know the type of person that narrator was. they're somebody who couldn't work a regular 9 to 5. You know, they needed to find something different, and they just kind of fell headfirst into this crazy exploring holes in our reality job, you know, and that's really cool. All right, knock, knock, knock. So already this story, psychological horror, it was kind of giving me the vibes of the first story in terms of, just this cabin in the woods where all this gore and it was like burned down. It was like falling down because all this crazy shit happened to it. Like some of these pictures, like this one, kind of reminded me of that too, so I just think that's kind of interesting. But yeah, I'm curious. Knock, knock, knock. Okay. It blows my mind just how fast things can change. Not long ago, I was going to college. But that came to an abrupt end when my father passed away during finals week from complications due to COVID-19. It had taken a lot of thought and prayer to decide to go to college because my mom had died a few years earlier of a massive freak heart attack. The school I was going to attend was out of state, and I really didn't want to leave my dad all alone in our home for months at a time after going through everything we had. The only reason I felt comfortable with going was because two of my friends, Bryce and Will, were willing to move in with my dad while I was gone. Bryce and I had been friends since we were 11, so he and my dad knew each other really well. Will didn't know my dad all that well, but he was immediately willing to help me in any way that he could. For that, I'll always be in their debt. Save you the boredom of reading about funeral arrangements and legal proceedings. All I'll say is that I blew all my saved up money that was meant to pay for college on legal and funeral fees. I have 3 older half-brothers from my father's first marriage to split belongings between. I've never had a great relationship with them. They always saw me as the brother that was born too late to the wrong woman. My dad's body wasn't even cold before they started trash-talking my mom in front of me. In the end, I was left with 10 grand of my mom's life insurance and from my dad's savings and a little cabin in the Yucatan Peninsula, maybe, is that? Yucatan or whatever peninsula. The cabin was in the middle of nowhere, off of an unnamed road, 45 minutes from the nearest town. The only sign of civilization within a 20-minute drive was a bait and tackle shop that doubled as a liquor store. The driveway to the cabin was impossible to see unless you knew where it was in the thick brush. The driveway was made up of nothing but ruts and roots that took 15 minutes to get down in ideal condition. In my 98 Cavalier, it took longer. The cabin itself was only about 900 square feet. There was a kitchen that doubled as a dining room with a wood-burning stove, a tiny living room with a moth-eaten couch, and an old crumbling fireplace, and a bedroom with a quadruple bunk bed, all with full-sized mattresses. The whole place probably only took 5 decent steps to get from room to room. The sink had an old-fashioned hand pump to get water from the river. The only bathroom was an outhouse and Mother Nature. There was a gas stove for cooking, a refrigerator that looked like it was bought in the 60s, and a single gas light by the front door. Although the cabin was wired for electricity, the only way to get power was by generator, so I knew on my tight budget I wouldn't be running that very often. After a nearly 10-hour drive with my 13-year-old lab, Ella, to get there, and missing the driveway a few times, I managed to get my Cavalier down. The driveway. I managed to get my 98 Cavalier down the driveway. I looked down at my radio clock and saw that the time was 10:23 p.m. I was desperate to finally crawl into bed and sleep the sorrow away. It was the middle of May. My girlfriend Christine had freshly broken up with me because I'd taken up a drinking habit to fill the void that was left behind, and she didn't want to deal with an alcoholic boyfriend. I can't blame her. I'd probably do the same if my boyfriend turned into a total failure. It also didn't help that she was going to college on the other side of the country, and now Ella and I were completely and utterly alone. Sure, Will and Bryce offered to live with me like they had my father, but I didn't want them to completely uproot their lives. Bryce was just made plant manager at a small trailer hitch manufacturer, and Will was engaged. I wanted to be alone anyways. I was in a pretty dark place. I unloaded my few possessions from my car, let my dog Ella run to the trees to answer the call of nature, tested the gas lines, and made my bed. The reality of my new life circumstances finally set in. During all the funeral and legal proceedings, I hadn't really managed to grieve. I just grabbed the bottle and went to drinking. Now, in the cold dark depths of the north, I broke down. I curled up on the couch and began to weep. "Oh, help me, God, please. I'm sorry, please, just help me," I said to no one. There was no help, just silence. Well, this is happy. Just kidding. So, drinking problem, cabin, check. I feel like that's cool of the friends to like live with the dad. I don't know. I guess it's like, oh, and they would have moved up here with me too, but I'm like, they would have, like, it's like, how good of friends are they? They lived in your dad's house, then your dad died. I don't know. Clearly, that's nice of them to do while you're going off to college, so your dad didn't have to be alone or whatever. But I almost just wonder, I'm like, do these friends just, if you move anywhere, do these friends just offer to come with you? Like, I don't know. It almost seems like unhealthy relationship or something weird. I don't know. But when I went back outside, the world was still. The wind had made the pines sway. The winds that made the pines sway had died. The river snaked through the woods without even a trickle. The animals were silent. I felt like I was in a crypt. I was almost hoping to hear some coyotes in the distance, or the snapping of a twig under a raccoon. Anything but silence. Even my overly brave dog was silent and stiff as a corpse. He was staring off into the tree line. Every hair from the tip of her nose to the end of her tail stood on end. I checked my phone to see the time, 10:52, and went back out to my car to leave my phone plugged in out there overnight instead of running the generator all night. We went back inside. I locked both doors and covered all the windows. I even closed the chimney vents. I didn't know why, but I felt the need to ensure that there was no access points to the cabin. By the time I rolled into bed with my bottle of rum, the battery alarm clock glowed 11:11. No sooner than when I cracked the seal on my dinner, I heard a gentle tap, tap, tap on the window nearest my bed. I froze. Ella held her breath. I waited. Tap, tap, tap. I hoped it was a tree branch. I prayed it was nothing. Tap, tap, tap. Only this time, it was on the living room window. This continued until whoever or whatever had found the front door. Thump, thump, thump. The doorknob started shaking. The screen door opened and slammed over and over. I watched enough Wendigoon videos to know better than to get up out of my bed. I feel like the whole mention of the Wendigoon videos here, it's like I'd watched enough Wendigoon videos to know better than to get up out of my bed. I feel like this whole thing, if you've watched Wendigoon videos, the whole thing is you're already out there in the fucking wilderness with your phone trapped out in the car, and there's no, like, you've already made so many mistakes to now be like, I knew that if I heard knocking on the door and somebody slamming my screen door and all this stuff, but I knew better than to get out of bed. I feel like you're already way past that, and you should investigate at least somewhat. You should try to see if there's somebody out there, if it's a person, if it's a ghost, if it, the whole I'm just gonna ignore it and it'll go away, like supernatural ghost entity thing. Like, that only works if it's like a very small, like, oh, we moved into a new house and I heard a noise. I thought it was coming outside. Maybe it was coming from in the basement, but I don't know. That only works in very small, like, vague circumstances. And if they keep happening, I mean, I guess the person is drunk, so maybe there's that. They're like, I'm dreaming, I'm drunk, I'm whatever. But I'm also like, that to me just seems crazy that you're like, I just won't investigate and I'll get a gun, the next day, yeah, I think you're already in too deep. You can't just ignore it. Ignoring is not a viable option when somebody is outside, like rattling your door and slamming your door. I'm not saying that you need to go out there and like confront them necessarily. I'm not saying that's the best idea either, but ignoring it is not. I mean, they're just going to keep trying to find a way to break into your house and eventually kill you. You know what I mean? So I made a mental note that I was going to get my hands on a firearm the next day. There was no way some super tweaker was going to kill me. The clouds parted and the silver gleam of the full moon was breaking through the trees, and I saw it. Through the bedsheet I used to cover the kitchen window, I saw the shadow of the knocker. I saw antlers, like a deer was on its hind legs trying to get a better view. Then I heard it, like a man who'd spent his whole life smoking. Hello, it rasped out. I started crying, wishing my dad were with me. I knew he wouldn't be able to do anything, but I needed my dad. This went on until 12:11 a.m. exactly 1 hour. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. I stayed in my sleeping bag, frozen with fright. At 2 a.m., I slunk out of my bag and tiptoed to the silverware drawer. Creaked and groaned as I opened it up. The sound made me want to throw up. I slid an 8-inch kitchen knife out and carried it back to my bed with me. I knew in my racing heart that this probably wouldn't do anything to protect me, but it gave me just enough comfort to stop sobbing. It did not give me the courage to sleep, however. The next morning, Ella and I got in the car and took a 45-minute drive to town. I got the necessities. 6 sheets of 1-inch plywood, a few 2x4s, screws, a drill, a week's worth of booze, canned goods, dog food, and 4 deadbolt locks for each door. Funnily enough, this hardware store also had a firearm section. God, I love the UP, so I picked up an over and under 20 gauge and the ammo to match. The bored girl behind the register rang up my items before me. I decided to casually spark up a conversation. Have there ever been any strange happenings over on Road 475? I asked, trying my best not to sound sketchy. With a great deal of skepticism, she replied, "Not really, just your odd hunting or snowmobiling accidents." "Interesting," I said. "Any cabin break-ins?" "A few. Why you asking?" she responded, now certainly thinking I must be guilty of something. I decided that was the end of our conversation. Didn't want her to think the new guy was some kind of alcoholic grifter burglar. I grabbed my items and crammed them as best as I could into my car. On the drive back to the cabin, I saw a truck pull into a hidden driveway like mine on the road. He got out and flagged me down. I got out and he started talking to me. "You new around here?" the man cheekily asked. Really not wanting to be talking to this strange-looking man, I replied, "Yeah, just moved into the cabin up the way last night." He stared at me, not in an intimidating way, more of "you'll not do well here" kind of way. He looked at me as if he was trying to decide what kind of flower arrangements he'd make for my funeral. "Name's Jim," he said, with a tension-breaking smile. "And you?" "Ben." And suddenly, with all the seriousness of a heart attack, he whispered, "Don't go outside past 11 p.m., Ben. The beast won't like it." I spent the rest of the day... That's it? You're not going to ask a follow-up question. That's the end of the conversation. That's insane. I'm going to have to give a I'm trying to just let the story transpire and see where it goes. But, I mean, already I think it's a little crazy to just be ignoring it. But I get it. Like, the person's drunk, they're bereaved, whatever. So they're in bed. But to have this conversation, to ask the girl in the store and then be like, oh, there's a few cabin break-ins, and then cut off that conversation and be like, but I decided I didn't want him to think I was some alcoholic vagrant, you know, whatever. Okay, fine, I can kind of understand that. But now this person wants to talk to them, flags them down, they get out of the car to talk to them, and then suddenly, with all the serious of a heart attack, he whispered, don't go outside past 11 p.m. then the beast won't like it. And then it just cuts to, I spent the rest of the day boarding up my windows. You need a follow-up. You need something in that part. Like, I understand that, like, the person's maybe not going to tell you more, but they literally say the beast won't like it. You can't be like, the thing with the antlers, I think I saw it last night. You can't, you know, clearly this person knows what you're up, like, or what's going on, what this monster's up to. So, like, that's just a crazy jump to me. You can't just have that jump. I think there needs to be more of a conversation there. And then it can jump to, I spent the rest of the day boarding up my windows. The only window that wasn't sealed by plywood was the window over the sink. Still boarded it up, but I used the 2x4s as makeshift bars. Everything was made as secure as I could. Jim even dropped by to help me get my 420-pound propane tank refilled in town. That night, after feeding Ella, and now Jim is still helping you fill your propane tank, but you're not gonna mention any more of this conversation? That just bugs me a little bit. But that's okay. Let's keep reading. That night, after feeding Ella, having dinner that consisted of cold canned stew and half a bottle of whiskey, I made sure that both of the doors were all deadbolted. All the boards were secure. Ella and I had both gone outside. After I rolled into bed, I began scrolling through my camera roll. With blurry, tear-filled eyes, I looked back at all the pictures of me and my parents. My mom looked so full of life. There was no indication that she'd be dead soon, and my dad looked so happy. After she died, my dad began to look more and more tired in those photos. I remembered when I got the voice message during finals week. Hey Ben, it's Dad. So Bryce had to drive me to the hospital today. Remember that cold I had last week? Turns out I got COVID from church. Don't worry about me. The doctor says I should make a full recovery. Just have a minor case of pneumonia. Nothing I haven't handled before. Just pray for me, okay? Call me when you get a chance. I love you, son. By the time I got the message and called back, he had passed. I couldn't take looking at these happy memories anymore. So I turned my phone off as 11:11 rolled around. Then it started again. Tap, tap, tap. Tapping started on the exterior wall of the cabin directly next to my head. Buzz of the booze instantly wore off. The temperature of the room plummeted. Ella was shaking, hiding under the blanket. Then I heard it. Hello? And please. It's so dark out here. I heard the beast rasping into the silent night. It knows my name. This time it was at the barn window. Did you board up? I did you board? saw you do it, chuckled into my soul. At the back door, I heard a thud, thud, thud. That's when it hit me, the stench. It smelled like body odor and raw sewage. The whole cabin was permeated in a foul scent of rot, so putrid that I could feel my jack making a return trip to my gullet. Ella was dry heaving and pawing at her nose. After one last slam on the front door, I heard it leave. The clock read 12:11 a.m. The smell lingered for about an hour afterwards. Once I knew the smell had completely vacated the premises, I managed to get a few measly hours of sleep. Next morning after I woke up, Ella and I got in the car and hauled tail over to Jim to inquire about the beast. It was only a few minutes up the road. So now you're gonna go ask about the beast, even though you already should have had this, you've had multiple opportunities to have this conversation. Jim lived in a single A-frame. It didn't have any windows. The first point of access was the front door, which was solid steel with 12 deadbolts, 2 drop-down bars, slide locks, and even a few chain locks for safe measure. The second entry point was the chimney, which was equipped with a fairly sophisticated locking vent. Inside, there was a bed, a table, a fridge, and a gas stove. Unlike my outhouse, he had a hand-dug pit toilet that smelled like it hadn't been emptied. Came again, didn't he? Jim asked solemnly. Yeah, he did, I replied. What did he say? He knew my name. Who have you told your name to? He asked as he placed his firm and reassuring hand on my shoulder. No one, just you and the cashier at the hardware store, I assured him. He took a beat, he thought, then he spoke. This isn't good, Ben. Beast has learned about you. He's searching you. He knows you're vulnerable. The nightly routine went on for months. Every night, the beast would torment me. 1 hour, every night, like clockwork. I didn't exactly get used to it, but it became normal enough to where it wasn't as frightening as before. Then everything changed this November. It replaced all the 2x4s with rebar and the bed sheets on the window with blackout curtains. I'd even gotten myself a part-time job at the paper factory in town. Pay was trash, but it kept Ella and I fed. Propane tank full, guns loaded. Over these months, Jim had become my only friend. He'd gifted me a handgun to keep on my person at all times. He said he wouldn't miss it, and I believed him. He had an arsenal that I'm sure would have had him on the ATS watch list if he hadn't lived at the intersection of the Styx and Deliverance, which was prime hunting grounds. I'd even traded in the over and under for a pump action with a 6-shot capacity. Horse gave me fresh meat, at least. The river gave me fish. Mother Nature had fully adopted me and had been very generous mother. I know what you're probably thinking. Why would you stay there? And my answer is, I had nowhere to go. I was completely disowned by my family. The family I hadn't disowned, that hadn't disowned me, were dead. And as of now, my routine was completely safe. Jim had informed me that the beast, according to everything he'd learned, could only enter via an open or unlocked door or window. The beast followed very strict. Well, see, and that's fine. That's fine. I just feel like in the very first interaction, Jim could have said that to you. Like, he could have said, don't go outside, keep your doors locked. Like, you could have had that and then kept the rest of the story pretty much the same. You just have that little bit earlier on. And you don't even need the part of, I drove over to Jim's and I told him, and like the stuff where Jim's like, you're vulnerable. I guess maybe he knows that because maybe they've talked about like, oh, my dad just died, whatever. But I mean, maybe the twist is going to be that Jim's the monster. I mean, that could be it. But also, I'm just like, you can have that from the very beginning, that Jim, from the very first time they spoke, Jim could have told him that. And then other than that, like, it's a fun Wendigo story thus far. Like, and I get the whole, like, he's feeding on your grief. He's feeding, the monster's feeding on your sadness. I understand that element, but I also think, I don't know. I think it's pretty like outspoken. I don't know if heavy-handed is the word I want to use, but it's pretty overstated that, like, I'm depressed, I'm lost in sorrow, I'm an alcoholic, I'm, all this stuff. To where when he goes like, you're vulnerable, it's like, I almost want to be like, well, no, duh. And also, I'm like, that's just a weird thing for somebody else to say to you that's just recently met you. Like, sure, you're talking about a supernatural monster, so I get it. It's weird anyways, but I'm like, does he know that you're vulnerable? Like, and so that's what makes me think, well, maybe Jim actually is the monster. I don't know, but I think that this is just somebody having fun and writing a Wendigo, story. But I also think that, because the monster just talks and knocks, and they saw the silhouette through the sheets, and then they boarded everything up. I mean, we'll see, because we haven't finished it yet, but I am like, I'm not overly scared by this. And probably that is just because I read a lot of these types of stories where it's a skin changer, where it's a Wendigo, where it speaks, it knows my name, it speaks, it has a loved one's voice, whatever. So, and I do still think it's probably gonna get to that point, but I don't know. We'll see. It might surprise me, but I am just a little like, I am at least thus far a little bit like, yeah, I've read this type of story before, and that's okay. I'm not saying that, that it's all played out, or it's all just predictable, but this is a very stereotypical Wendigo type story that I've read. I've read more than a few of these now. But yeah, so anyways. It was Thanksgiving. The forest was completely blanketed in snow, and it was already getting dark by 4 p.m. The cashier who'd rung me up all those months ago was now kind of my girlfriend. Her name's Connie, by the way, and she invited me and Ella over to her parents, Bob and Cheryl's house for dinner. I locked up the cabin and made sure the gas light was turned off before I left. My 98 Cavalier had seen better days. The radio no longer worked, so I chose to sing Christmas songs to Ella the whole way to Connie's. I brought a slow-roasted venison loin that Jim had helped me cook from the dough I had taken earlier that week. He brought over his bigger generator and his electric roaster and gave me a few pointers in the morning so I could have it ready by dinner. Connie had made sweet potato pie and something called chicken dish. Her parents supplied all the drinks and side dishes of green bean casserole, tater tot casserole, corn casserole, and every other casserole the Midwest could muster. Other than the Lions losing, it was just a wonderful evening. After a third glass of wine, she asked, "Why don't you ever take me to your place?" "You don't want to. The only toilet is an outhouse. And the hand pump is frozen up," I said, trying to steer the conversation into any other direction. I hadn't told her about the beast. I didn't want to scare her away by making her think I was some kind of alcoholic schizophrenic. Jim had made me promise to never bring anyone to the cabin. It wasn't safe. "I don't mind. Besides, I can't exactly make you thankful while my parents are in the other room," she said, looking at me over the top of her glasses. That was it. I'm a weak man. I'd agreed that she could come out for the night. As long as we went through my routine, everything would be fine. My surviving since May was proof of that, right? So the one other person that he told his name to, he's bringing out there, Connie might be the freaking monster. It's either Connie or Jim or it's its own entity, but now he's putting her in danger. Oh God. Of course. If there's one reason you're gonna test the monster, of course it's gonna be that. At least it's believable in that sense. Bob wasn't thrilled about her staying the night, but Cheryl reminded him that her little girl was an adult now and that she can make informed decisions. He gave me a look that told me if I hurt her, there'd be one less man on the line tomorrow at the factory. We left, and I tried to come up with a plan to keep away from the cabin until the hour of the beast was over. We drove deeper and deeper into the forest. The snow was deep and slick, so I took my time driving towards the cabin. I kept checking my phone to see the time. It was getting dangerously close to 11:11. I decided to slow down and accidentally take a wrong turn. I successfully managed to keep us away from the cabin for the full hour of the beast. I was pretty good about I was feeling pretty good about myself until we pulled into the cabin. The door was wide open. Through the vents of my car, we could smell rot. The beast was in my cabin. My heart pounding, I locked the door. I knew I had. I always locked the door. When I looked in my rearview mirror, I watched a large pine tree fell across the driveway with a groan, cracking, and a teeth-shaking crash. Then Connie spoke as if she was trying not to breathe. "Ben, something's very wrong here." "Stay here, I'm gonna check it out," I said as I slowly made my egress. Of course. Every other time he's like, "I'm just gonna hide from the monster. It won't bother me." But then if a girl's around, he's like, "Don't worry, babe, I'll handle it. I'm gonna clear this room real quick." You know, like, why? And yeah, tree just fell. Just stay in the car. Every other time you've stayed behind a locked door, and sure, the monster could probably break the windows of the car, but at least you would be with the girl that you're supposed to care about and be protecting. You're like, "You stay here, leave the doors unlocked, leave the windows down. I'm gonna go into the house real quick." You know? Oh my God, so stupid. I didn't want to check it out. I was certain that this was my end. Poetic, really. Just as my life began to smooth out, I was going to be finished off by some nightmare. I thought about calling Jim, but he would be asleep by now, and he wouldn't be able to get down my driveway, nor would he be able to make it here in time. I was going to have to do this alone. I grabbed my flashlight. And the other thing too is I like how people act like a tree on the road just means like, well, that road is exploded now. No one can ever use that. I'm like, Jim could drive up your driveway to that tree, get out, hop over the tree, or walk around the tree in the woods, you know, whatever he has to do, and then come up to your house. Like a tree over, and this has happened in a few stories now, where a tree over the road is like, sure, I get it, you cannot actively drive a car over a tree, but like you might be able to push the tree, like you don't know until you try. So and now he's like, with Connie here vulnerable, this was my time to die, and I've been so sad, and it's poetic that, you know, whatever, I should just die alone now. And it's like, what? I was going to have to do this alone. I had grabbed my flashlight and started sneaking up to the door of the cabin. The clouds had ceased the snowing as if in anticipation. The icy wind bit my face. The cold leached its way into my bones. I slowly pushed the door open with a long, slow creak. Cautiously, I entered and scanned the kitchen area with my flashlight. Dishes were broken and the contents of my fridge were strewn all around the cabin. The blanket I used to separate the bedroom from the kitchen had been torn down. I couldn't see the beast, but based on the stench, it had been there recently. As I pressed on, my heart began pounding. I checked the bedroom and the living room, but they were clear. Of course, they do clear. It's all good, Connie. Must have been a bear or something, I lied. Then I heard the ear-ringing sound of shattering glass. Yup, it's killing Connie. Great. Good job, Ben. I started running back to the car with my pistol drawn, and I saw him. The beast, he wasn't in the cabin. The beast had broken through the passenger window and was pulling Connie through, slashing her against the jagged glass. Ella had a hold of him by his bicep, but he swatted her away, and I heard her snap against a tree with a sickling chlunk. Ben, help, Ben! She screamed as the flesh of her belly was shredded to ribbons. The beast looked like a bent, arthritis-stricken man, fully nude, skin glistening in the moonlight. From the armpits up, he looked like a buck suffering from chronic waste disease. Blood, scum, and fecal matter was slattered all over his body. He turned to look at me with milky eyes. He grunted in a sing-song growl. That was all he said. I had already started firing at him. Just a few of my bullets actually hit, but I was too late. He was already dragging Connie by the hair into the tree line just out of sight. I heard as the screams for help faded into the distance. I heard him killing her. I could hear the blows falling on her body like a wet sack of potatoes. I went inside, I grabbed my shotgun, I went out to end this. I walked into the tree line, numb and cold, as I followed the trail of blood and shuffled snow. I heard Connie's calls for help, for screams, the gurgles, and with one final shlunk and crack, she was gone. With every step, I knew that I nor the beast would be leaving the woods. I had nothing to live for. I found the mess. I saw the beast hunched over. He was on all fours as he had buried his face into Connie's now cracked open chest cavity. Connie looked almost as if she was pleading to me for help. She was pleading. Connie looked almost as if she were pleading to me for help. She was. The reason she looks that way is because she was pleading for your help while she was dying, and you were like, oh, let me go back and get my shotgun, actually. It has more stopping power, you know? Like... help that was too late. No shit. As I beheld the beast, I saw that the deer head was laying in the snow. I saw the now beast unmasked. It was Jim. Of course it was. Jim, the one who had helped me fortify my cabin, the one who had helped me install my deadbolts. He must have stolen keys to the cabin when he was helping me cook. He set this trap. He turned to look at me, trying not to throw up while swallowing hunks of Connie. I raised my gun. There would be no tears from me, no sorrow. I was numb from the cold. It already says that you shot him earlier too, and now he's just okay. So is he a monster, or is he a human pretending to be a monster? No sorrow. I was numb from the cold and from my spirit finally being snuffed out. Please, Ben, please kill me, he begged as tears flowed down his cheeks. I lifted the shotgun, hand shaking and crying. Didn't he just say no sorrow? See, that doesn't make sense. He's like, there would be no tears from me, no sorrow. And then it's like the guy is like, please kill me. And Jim is crying. And then it's like, I lifted my shotgun, hand shaking and crying. I put the bead right on his face. I pulled the trigger. After the smoke cleared, I saw Jim's headless body. His fingers twitch and his legs writhe. I was completely broken. I cradled Connie's body, weeping and begging God to return her to me, but my prayers fell on deaf ears. The same deaf ears that refused to heal my father of his illness. As the sun rose, I heard whimpers from near the cabin. It was Ella, somehow still alive. Hey girl, it's okay, I'm here, I said as I walked over to her. This is just horrible. This isn't like horrifying. Like, I'm not saying horrible isn't bad. I'm saying like, this is just horribly depressing, and it's been so depressing in the beginning, and now it's just getting even more depressing in the end, that I'm just like, I don't know if this is so much a horror story as it is just a depressing story. You know what I mean? Like, it hasn't terrified me so much as it's just made me like sad. She tried to get up, but Jim had in fact broken her spine. Of course she had. She looked at me with fear in her eyes. Her breath was raspy. She desperately tried to get up, but I reassured her and told her to lay on. Then, the same gun I'd killed Jim with, I put my sweet Ella girl to sleep. As far as I'm concerned, this is the end for me. I can't face Bob and Cheryl to tell them what happened to Connie. I have no family. My girlfriend is dead. I left my friends, and now I don't even have my dog. Yeah, this is the end. If you're reading this, tell Will and Bryce what happened. Or don't. I don't really care. Jesus Christ. 21 upvotes. Which I'm not saying it doesn't deserve the upvotes. What I mean by that is that I'm like, I'm so sad. Like, it's a fun story, don't get me wrong. But Christ, like, I'm almost worried about this person. Like, I hope, because you know people use their real lived experience, like, when they write. And so I'm hoping that not too much of this is from real lived experience, and I'm hoping that they're okay. You know, that's my main, like, Jesus Christ. Very fun. Maybe one of, I mean, literally in the story I read last week, both the dogs got murdered, and I think the whole family ends up getting murdered, although I haven't finished that one. That one was guts. But literally in this story, I think it's, so it has some like goofiness elements to it that I'm like, like with the ignoring the knock knocks and the stuff with Jim and Jim being the monster, which I did kind of see coming. I didn't know for sure, but and all that, to where I'm like, I think the story could be just as dark and horrifying, but I actually don't think Connie needs to die. What I think should have happened instead was you have the narrator like save Connie to some extent, and then Ella and Connie are together. And I mean, I know this is kind of maybe sounds like a dumb hero moment, but I do think it would be kind of a better ending to be like, Connie, take care of Ella. I'm going to finish this, and then go out, and he just goes out shooting, like from the cabin or from the car or whatever. And you have like the corny part where after he clears the house, he's like, oh, it must have just been a bear or something. Like Connie's right there with him, but Connie's like out in the car. So I'm like, even that part seemed kind of silly to me. And then to have the dog, it's like the dog clenched to his bicep. Well, we know it was a bicep because it ended up being a real person. Okay, fine. And he's just like wearing deer antlers or wearing this, disguise, whatever. But it's like from what I understand, the dog and the girl were inside the car, and he was pulling her out of the car, and the dog clenched in. But then it's like, but he threw the dog and it broke its spine on a tree. So I'm like, so while he's grabbing the girl, pulling her out of the car, he also pulled the dog out of the same broken window and threw it again. Like, I don't know. I think that the story is just a fun, like, Wendigoon, Wendigo, creature feature, story. I think that it definitely goes really far into just the depressing, like, a monster. I lost everything before, and then the monster stole everything else from me, which, granted, is horrifying, but I like in these types of stories when characters aren't, even though the horrifying stuff happens, when they still do smart things. And they've made a few dumb decisions, but I think one of the main one was, you left Connie out in the car when you go to clear the house. You either should take Connie with him into the house, or they should at least try to, a tree just knocked over, they can't get back out. They should at least try to stay in the car together. They should try to just hunker down. If he has a gun, stay in the car. Well, then, maybe they start to break the window and the monster gets him and he shoots the monster and it runs off. And so then he's like, okay, I've got to go track it down. But then the monster doubles back and then goes and grabs Connie. There's other ways you could have it without him being like, don't worry, babe, stay out here in the car 20 miles away, or not 20 miles, but, stay here in the car alone while I go into the house, and it's just stuff like that I'm like, I want to feel bad for the character, or I want to feel the emotional punches that the story had, but it just seemed like too much of a, well, everything bad is going to happen to this character regardless. And even the character thinks that too. Even, what's his name? I forget our narrator's name, but he's like, I've already lost everything. I knew I was going to die when I went into this house. And so it's like, you've already he practically just already defeated himself. I don't know why he even bothered fixing up his house and boarding up the windows and doing all that shit. It's like, if you just wanted, if your life was that miserable and you just wanted to die anyways, then like, just fucking let the creature eat you. Let Jim eat you, you know what I mean? So I think that's maybe where the story just got a little goofy for me, was like, just how defeatist the main character also was. So then when they did things like, I'm gonna try to kill this monster once and for all, I'm like, I thought you just said you wanted to die a minute ago. And then with the lines like, I looked at it, you know, blah blah blah, no tears, no sorrow, and then Jim's crying saying kill me, and then it's like my hand shook as I was crying, and it's like, are you cold and emotionless because you've lost everything? You're numb? Are you completely numb, or are you shocked and affected by this? Like, it just kept jumping back and forth between those things to where I couldn't get a beat on it. I couldn't really feel for the character the way I think maybe I was supposed to. So I don't know. I think it's a fun story. I think any story, you know, shout out to you BW buyers. This has definitely been one of the just saddest stories I've read. I think that anytime a person wants to write a cabin creature feature like this, I'm like, go for it. They're fun. Have fun with it. And it seems like this person probably did. I just my feeling about it is that I would have liked to see our narrator maybe have a little bit more like gumption, and maybe had a little bit more of like I don't know, do some smart things too, to then when it doesn't work out, it makes that all the much more heartbreaking. Because I felt like it's just like, well, she wanted to have sex with me, so I guess we had to go to the monster cabin where I knew the monster was gonna be. You know, it's just stuff like that that just makes me go like, oh, you dumbass, you know? And so I can't really get emotionally invested, but that doesn't mean I didn't have a good time with just a creepy monster story, right? It just means that, like, as far as the emotion of it goes, I wasn't that invested. But I think it's fun to have your creepy neighbor, Jim, who's like helping you fix up your cabin, be the monster who wears the deer antlers and like the old man skin or whatever, and then just goes and eats people. Like, I think that's fun. I think that's fun to have the hermit thing. I guess maybe it's the costume that smells. It's not Jim that smells, because I would be like, wouldn't you smell the same smell hanging out with him? But maybe it's the gross, you know, Wendigo costume that he dons that makes it that way. But anyways, there's a few like plot holes and stuff, but overall I just say to you BW buyers 2233 keep writing. You know, you could do a rewrite for this story, or you just leave this story what it is, but keep writing and keep you know, improving, and I think in like a future story, I think you know, doing something with the monster to kind of have more of a build up, because all we really saw it was the knock knock, and we heard it, and then we saw it through the curtain. And I think to maybe have some more parts about, like, you know, I saw its skin on a tree, or I saw the whatever, the signs of it being in my house nearby, and to actually have the character like investigating what this monster is, as opposed to just being like, well, I guess a Wendigo's outside my house and I just have to ignore it. like, that doesn't feel satisfying, and it doesn't feel satisfying when the monster eventually gets you, because it's like, well, yeah, you just ignored the problem for so long. It's not a surprise that eventually, you know, the monster waited till you were out of your house one night and then broke in. Like, that's not that insane either, you know. And he was like waiting for you to come home, and he made a little trap sort of a thing. Like, so, you know what I mean? That's just my advice. I think I understand having a character that's just like really depressed and really in a dark place, like that can be good for a story. I just think to have them kind of have an about face where they're like, no, I want to live. Something like that, rather than just he was sad and maybe not wanted to die in the beginning, but was like super sad and just asking God for help, and then he's asking God for help at the end and is like, I'm done, I'm just gonna die here, I lost my dog, I lost my girl, I can't go back to her parents, I guess I'm just done, and tell Will and Bryce I'm sorry, you know, and that's kind of the end. I think that like I said, it's depressing and it's upsetting, but I think even in a short story like this, I think you could do more with the main character, and I also don't think you need such a just fucking dreary ending where it's like, the dog died, my girlfriend died, and Jim, my only other friend in town, was the monster who ate my girlfriend. You know what I mean? It just kind of seems like it's like any bad thing that can happen does. So it kind of cheapens. And both my parents died, and, you know, blah, blah, blah at the beginning. So it's just kind of like so much dreariness that once the horror elements finally came, they were kind of underwhelming, because it's like, yeah, it's been a horror depressing show from day one, you know. So I don't know, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I hope I wasn't too you know, mean or whatever. I think, you know, like I said, I think keep writing, and I think you know, continue to do creature stuff if that's what you like to write about. And if you like to have, you know, depressing stuff happen to your characters, that's fine too. I think just doing it in a way to where it doesn't feel so much like, well, everything was just doomed, and it is doomed at the end. I think we'll have more of a narrative arc that can be emotionally impactful. But some stories don't need to be emotionally impactful. It's not so much about the emotions, it's about the entertainment and the fun of it, right? And so that's fine. And it was an entertaining story, you know. I laughed, I was sad, you know. I feel bad for Ella and for Connie, obviously. Yeah. So, shout out to you. Thank you for letting me read it. I appreciate you guys. I think that's going to do it for me. I'm sorry, because I know I keep putting in the description, I keep putting, what is it? Something under the Boardwalk Part 3. I do want to get to it. I gotta go to the bathroom, and I'm just gonna call it. I'm hungry. I want to go eat something. But I appreciate everybody who stopped by the stream. Yeah, keep writing, keep posting, keeping on. I think we will have to do maybe parts 4 and 5, because I want to know what happens with Deputy Harris. As well as maybe, you know, part 2 of Urban Explorer. A lot of good stuff. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. Hopefully this was a good stream. Adios. Keep creeping your cast. Keep creeping on. There was some term that I found funny that was like crepa something, but anyways, doesn't matter. Peace out. Adios. Bye bye.